send best of wishes. I get to the bag with the quickness, no, I don't need no assistance, no. Yeah, no playing it safe. I said let's get it, you say not today. What can I say? You ain't gon' go for it, get out the way. Yeah, got no time to waste. Can't be with me if you're not at my pace. You're not at my level, you're not in my race. One foot on the gas, I'm pushing the brakes. Dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. Yeah, by any means. I gotta get it, the mindset. I gotta get it, the mindset.
Since the start of 2020, the top drivers across iRacing have visited some of the most historic tracks and some of the best cars across the service. Some of them have had some challenges, trying to race on the pavement, race on the road courses, and try and conquer the dirt. But all of that wraps up today for the major series and its European regional drivers today, as it's the final race of the 2020 season at the virtual Auto Club Speedway. This is the California 500, live on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from across the iRacing world. I'm Justin Briss. Alongside of the booth today is Nolan Rempel with Samil Aurora alongside with us as well. Hugo Weiss will be in the director's seat with cameras provided by Esteban Baulu for today's action. It's been months of action from January up until now, Nolan. The season wraps up with this race today, 250 miles, 500 laps to determine a champion.
It has been an absolutely thrilling season here, Justin. Definitely one of the more thrilling ones in the Major Series history. There's been thrills, there's been spills, there's been plenty of drama to go around in all divisions along the way. And what we are getting set to go racing for will be the final, very long race here tonight.
Plenty of battles to keep an eye on. Some of the championships have been clinched, but one of them, which is not, is the European region's Pro Split drivers. Galvaverde enters today just 113 points ahead of Ross Banfield. If anything was to happen attrition-wise, the championship door is wide open, with Rodney Thompson, Kurt Crum, Eric Mickey among the drivers ready to jump through. Joshua Wolf, Dallas Pataska, Dustin Brock, David H. Baker, and Travis Henderson looking to lock up and fully secure their top 10 points runs with solid finishes today. It's been a competitive campaign for these drivers, but for other divisions, they've been competing for various championships, whether it's been in these same splits or whether it's been in separate sportsman divisions. For Sam Harper, he came away with the championship after clinching that last race for this series with the Bathurst 500. Joseph Holman, Jan Bronke, along with Mark Redeker among your top four, with Sam Watley rounding out the top five. Mason Martzoff, Drew Lawn, Stuart Elder, Scott Kukas, along with Simon Thorns, rounded out the top 10 in that regard. Some positions still up for grabs. For the Legends side, it was secured as well with a good run of Bathurst 500. Miguel Hagstrom is your Legends champion for 2020. He'll look to finish the season off strong, as well as Andy Banfield, who has been fairly sporty in the open wheelers this season. Claude Baval, Jan Bromby, along with Mark Redeker, once again the top five among those competitors. The top 10 separate by 1,600 points. But the teams this year are up for grabs, Samil. I turn to you for this because for the elite teams, it's still tight between two groups, Bombshell Motorsports and Grizzly TFR Pro, the most consistent groups all season.
Indeed, both of them have stolen the show and have been in the spotlight whenever it has come to the Teams Championship here in the Major Series European Top Split. And the way they have raced, the way they've competed against each other has been something very admirable. But when we come to the Fontana Speedway, the Auto Club Speedway as it is now known, tempers can flare. The temperatures are rather hot here, and when they go side by side, who knows what could happen.
Indeed, as well, these teams have been competing in the premier side of things as well. Various different organizations, more than 20 plus, of course, have represented their various organizations, with the Hansen Brothers Racing Group winning the premier championship by 1,500 points. As you can see over Dog Bear Euro, Missed Apex ran various races this season, including in the pro splits of action. They finished 3 and 4 in the premier side of things. Keep an eye on them, I feel, for 2021, to say the very least. It's been a competitive campaign, though, but it all culminates here with IndyCar racing. Once again, we are back in the Dallara IR18s for the Auto Club Speedway's running of the California 500. And Nolan, I turn to you for this. Drivers are getting ready for what could be one of the most difficult races of the season. Some of the best races this season have been in these chassis for the Dallara IR18, but this is full distance today for these respective drivers.
You know, I was talking with my team earlier before this race before this race session went up, and they were even telling me that this race would be more trying so than the Indianapolis 500, just because 250 lap distance, it's a very, very long distance for these drivers to make, and it is not easy to control these cars for that long. And like you said, even to us before this broadcast, we're looking to be a 7-stopper race today, so there's a long, long way to go for these drivers today.
Charity representing this race today, or being represented by this race, is the Susan B. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation. Again, Breast Cancer Awareness Month just wrapping up just a day or so ago, and for some parts of the world, just exiting its final past couple hours. For more information, go to www.komen.org for more information on how to donate to the charity directly. But these drivers are also going to be getting ready to have to deal with a lot of potential factors. Potential of attrition can come in some ill, as well as the factor of dirty air, especially at tracks such as this, because it's high speeds, high draft, and high amounts of difficulty, and you only have one faster pair at your disposal if anything goes wrong today.
Absolutely, that's the challenge of the Major Series. And especially when you come to a circuit like this one, the Auto Club Speedway, where we have multiple lines to run, I think attrition could be a major problem, because unlike the Indy 500 or the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where we only have a couple of lines that you can use on the corners, here you can go 2, 3, 4, 5. That's pretty much it. That's how far you can go right here with the cars. So naturally, drivers are bound to be more aggressive, trying to use all the space that they've got here. And once it goes beyond 4 wide, man, things could get really, really horrible really, really quickly.
Now here's the thing to think about on top of things, though. Nolan, this is the magic number for that championship fight we referred to for the pro class today. The big one that's still available up for grabs for competitors today. For Valverde, if he isn't your winner here for this race, and it ends up being Ross Banfield, the magic number, 5th or better, gets him still the championship. Anything worse, again, this is if Banfield takes the checker flag, would mean that Banfield wins the championship. In other words, if Banfield is up in front and quick, and Valverde has anything happen, he's going to need to get to 5th at minimum.
It's going to be a very, very tricky task for Banfield, isn't it? I mean, right now, just in the practice times, he's sitting a couple tenths off of Uldis Puteklis' fastest lap of the session, so it is definitely going to be a hard work for him today to see where he is going to be finishing up this race today. Like you said, he needs a good finishing position. That is definitely not out of the question. He has to finish well. He has to win if he's going to have a hope at making a run at that title.
We'll have to see how things fare out here as drivers wrap up practice. This has been one that's been much anticipated. It's expected to be one of the best races of the year, and it's only fitting this is the finale to end off what's been a thrilling 2020 season for the Major Series and its European regional drivers. Practice is now wrapped up. cars are all set to roll their way towards your starting grid. It's time to take a look at how they begin for the California 500 here on RaceBot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. On the pole today, it's Henry Bennett for Total Downforce Racing Europe. Start alongside Jonas Puteklis with Jan Valverde and Joshua Wortham on your top four. Keep an eye on Bennett, one of the top open-wheel racers in all of iRacing competing today. Ross Banfield will start at P5 today with Dallas Pataska in 6. He's been one of your top oval competitors all season. Travis Henderson and Eric Mickey rounding out the top 10. Brian Barney will start in P9, while Trevor Bobrovsky rounds out your top 10 for what's expected to be a competitive field here, Samil.
Absolutely, it's going to be a big grid right here. And Brian Barney, Vavrovsky, Niskanen, Snyder, then of course Rene O'Wara. Marcus Roma starts in P number 14, Jon Lang in P15. And Darwin Mines has been a bit of a dark horse in most of the races right here, starting in 16th. Then of course Riley Thompson in 17th, Ray Partridge starts in P18 with Mike Gaunt in 19th and Ola Sandqvist in 20th. Nolan.
21st place is going to be Ryan Mayer to take things off, rounding out some of what's going to be the last third of the grid. Dawson Brock in 22nd position. Alexander Wergert in the 23rd position. Michael Hagstrom starting 24th. David Baker, a driver who he's got quite a bit of experience in these Indy cars, starting way down in 25th place. He's got a lot of work to do today. Jacques Shaw in 26th. It'll be Richie Ahern 27th. Colin Martsoff 28th. Tom Draylane 29th. Andy Banfield 30th. Last two rows are going to be Andreas Robertson, Sean Brown, Thomas Geischer, and Kurt Crum rounding out the field for today.
So 34 entries for the final race of the season in the Pro Split. There will also be a sportsman division being racing at the exact same time. Joseph Holman will start on the pole for that side with Sam Harper on the outside front row. To recap again, 250 miles, 50 laps rather, your distance today, 500 miles near the Virtual Auto Club Speedway. It's a track that's hosted open wheel racing since its inception and is known for some exciting action, to say the very least. Drivers all set to go, 10 tire sets available in the pits today, here from Fontana, California. Bennett and Puteklis in control of the field for the final race of 2020. The Major Series European region comes down to this race. Green flag is out. We're underway from California.
Already fading out 4 wide in the background as the field checks up a bit in the back. Some drivers not getting the best start at all as we thunder down into turn number 1 here, Justin.
Have to see how some of the reviews go into play now, as several drivers, believe me, has jumped the start of the back of the field. But several others, though, still scrapping 4 wide into the corners, still fighting for the race lead. Bennett hugging the bottom side of the racetrack. Puteklis trying to hug the middle line. For Kinetic Racing, they started off the international region with the first 2 rows locked in. They start with the first 3 of the first 4 positions being in their hands. Lap 1 goes to Bennett.
But here comes Puteklis with the momentum on the outside line. That's going to be the one critical factor here at Auto Club Speedway. Momentum. How can you use it to your advantage? From the looks of things, Puteklis just has a little bit of that on the outside line, but not enough to make that move on Bennett as it stands.
Good battle for the lead so far, and as this race goes on, you have to keep in mind, dirty air is going to potentially be a strong factor here at this racetrack. Overall, 14 degrees of banking throughout these corners here at Auto Club Speedway. 11 degrees down the front stretch, 3 degrees down the back straightaway in a very old track surface. Very bumpy. They're going 223 miles an hour down the straightaways and 217 to 216 miles an hour in the middle of the corners. And as you can see, draft big if you want to try and make a move.
Puteklis trying to go once again for the race lead around the outside of Henry Bennett. Real question is going to be, can he make it work? Doesn't look like that outside line has come in just yet. Much like Michigan, this is a track where the outside line can pull quite a bit in these Indy cars, but it has to get rubbing in first. And right now, there just is not the momentum around that outside line for Puteklis to make this move stick.
And as these tires wear out too, if you think back to, say, the iRacing IndyCar Challenge that happened back in the summertime at tracks such as Michigan, tire wear came to play around the midway point of each of the stints. Expecting the same potentially here today with some of the tire wear fall off at this track in terms of the battles. Buteklis still wants to try and take the race lead and get clean air. Still can't get anything to go. Right behind him, though, Bobrovsky wants to rip away the top 5. It's 2x2 to 3 rows deep.
This is the kind of racing that we all love and adore. Riding on board right now with Trevor Bobrovsky from P number 5. Look at this glorious onboard camera, using the outside line to his advantage. Very subtly turning here when the apex arrives. Want to be going late apex right here because it's just the nature of the corner. It's a D-like circuit. Has he got 4th place seal? Yes, he has. And now, look at this. Could be 3 wide at the top for the lead. This should be brilliant.
Joshua thought about it. Doesn't take it, though, at the very top of the line. Still, gonna scrap things out a little bit as Buteklis. Buteklis, he's been competitive for parts of the season, was strong in the virtual Indy 500 as well at the Brickyard earlier this year, as well in the Major Series competition in these Indy cars. No peak quite yet. Most of his teammates of note have dropped back. Of note for their championship competitors for the Pro Championship, Valverde P7, Ross Banfield P9. They've both lost 4 spots since the drop of the green flag.
So definitely not the start that they wanted to have here at all. Quite a bit of work to do in case they're going to be making those spots up throughout the rest of the race. I should note as well, they were a lot of those drivers that did not get the best starts at all, and that's why a lot of the field is still really lagging around further in the back of the field, is because they just couldn't get the jump off the line. They definitely mistimed it, and it's caused them to lose out on a lot of spots right out of the gate. And it's not easy to pass here at all around the outside when you got drivers like Henry Bennett that are fighting hard to keep their positions on the inside groove.
Still sliding up as Buteklis and all of this, and now the tire wear seems to be settling in, coming towards the end of lap 8. Buteklis again pushes up the track. Still plenty of time, mind you, in these runs. As we talked about, 7-stop race. But the main key thing is, you get any sort of caution, that throws everything into flux because the tire wear is known to be pretty steep here at this racetrack. Already, some of these drivers seen about a couple tenths of a second of fall off, depending on where they are in the pack. At the back of the field, it's up to 6 tenths.
And that's just because of the nature of this circuit. The surface, well, that is pretty abrasive, and keep on chewing on your tires. It'll not give it any respite as we see this battle for the lead continuing on. And that's also because the circuit is located in the countryside of California, naturally a very, very hot state. And look at the surface as well. It's so bumpy, it's so bouncy. The drivers, when they are driving in the real world, their spines are getting shattered every single lap. Not so much right here, but that certainly does play a factor in the way the car handles. Still too wide for the lead, and Bennett is able to hold on.
Of course, Henry Bennett, a very difficult driver to try and beat. That's why it's so difficult. A little bit of a push-up right there, but Nolan, you have to think back to the springtime. One of the top contenders in these Indy cars at the Brickyard as well. One of the top drivers in all of iRacing in official racing when it comes to this car.
Henry Bennett is a driver that has been very, very big in the IndyCar community ever since the days of the Dallara IR05. He is a massive driver when it comes to these things. He is one of the most talented racers in these Indy cars that you can find on the surface. He knows how to work this car. He knows how to use every inch of it to his advantage, and he's doing so here today. And that's why, even after 12 laps, with as powerful as the draft is, he still maintained the race lead without a single fault.
Only 6 starts previous to today. 2 top 5s, however, in that mix for him on the season. Also known as one of the top setup builders. Works for Pure Driving School in that regard. Speaking of setups, if you're looking for a chance to try and work on setups as well as 4 setup bases, as well as if you need a setup, make sure to go to Majors Garage. For more information, visit PacificMajors.com and find the icon for the Majors Garage. Still 13 laps now coming to the books, this time by still no lead changes. And is it a surprise that we see one Dallas Pataska making his way up towards the front?
Well, it shouldn't be a surprise at all. Dallas Pataska, one of the top drivers in this championship. And in the last time we had a single-seater race here, that was at Spa, and Pataska finished third in that one. So he's a man who knows exactly what he's doing whenever you put him in a single-seater. And in fact, when we were at Indianapolis, he also finished third. It almost felt like he could have won that one. So in the IndyCar as well, this man right here is extremely comfortable. And guess what position he is in right now? P3. Oh,
and there's trouble coming off of turn 4. That's Eric Mickey spinning into the pit lane. No caution. And everybody else, I think, got through, but that may have broken up around the teens. For the most part, Travis Henderson was having technical issues around where he was coming off the corner. He did the self-inflicted, though, into the fence.
Self-inflicted, just slap the wall coming out of turn 4. It's a very easy thing to do. Do you know what's also going to be really crucial about that, though, Justin? He's going to have a big black flag for speeding on pit entry there, because this was under green flag conditions. And look at how hot he comes into the pit road here as we ride on board with Eric Mickey. Hits the wall, comes back down. Even if you lock out the brakes, no way you're slowing down for pit road in time.
That's at minimum 40 seconds stop and hold on the iRacing service if you speed on the pit lane at any point before you reach your box. Eric Mickey now pulled off down into the pit lane at least 33 seconds in the stalls. Now the main thing is, how long, Nolan, do you feel these stints will be as this race progresses here today? With the bat being 7 stops, how do you strategize this? Well, throw that out the window, because Rene Warner just had his bad luck come into play. He is now your first caution.
And this one was actually the result of contact with Andreas Robertson in the 333 machine.
So, our first show, let's take a look at the Race Spot TV replay. Rene Warren, known for racing a lot of the stock cars, especially the oval side, has ran some of the sportsman races this year. And right there, hello.
and in a flash, Rene O'Wara finds himself facing the wrong way round, and that IndyCar has been bruised and battered. Thankfully for him, he does get one fast repair though, but Andreas Robertson also, man, he will be under some hot water. And if Rene and Andreas can have a word after the race, you kind of get a feeling that something rather hefty may be said. Take a look at this onboard, gets it in, and yup, two drivers trying to share the same piece of real estate. It's so hard to judge your nose in these Indy cars, and at a circuit like Auto Club Speedway where there are so many lines to run, this can happen so easily.
Should be no shock, by the way, that you see just about everybody in the entire field coming down to pit to use their first set of tires. Well, one driver didn't. Brian Barney, the only person so far out of the top 26 yet to come down with the rest of the pack here. Again, tire fall off is significant. As you've seen, car will likely start to shove up the track as you run more and more laps here with the major speeds. Just about everybody up on the Jackson's caution flag here, Nolan.
Henry Bennett wins the race off of pit road, but unsurprisingly, Pataska picks up second, Puteco is third, Valverde fourth, Joshua Wolf fifth out of pit road. So it looks like the order relatively unchanged all the way back to the top five. Ross Banfield, I believe, the first driver to actually get a position swap. I believe he might have jumped 3 spots up during that pit stop. He was eighth when he was crossing the line on pit road, and it looks like he's going to be starting at about the 6th and 7th position now.
So looking at things, Ross Banfield elected to just take a 6-second stop. Telling sign normally there's a splash and go strategy, 8.2 to 8.6 seconds if you take tires on the jacks up to as high as 9.4 seconds early on in these runs. Now, to explain the logic here again, 10 sets of tires, so you only have 3 to spare. If you want to try and strategize, it's looking at the very least, Brian Barney is thinking big picture here, because say something happens caution flag wise in the next 12 laps or so off the green flag, likely a lot of the cars may elect to stay out and risk it on some of the old tires. Some may burn a set early on, but Barney can gain track position. The car behind, by the way, Eric Mickey, was hoping to get a wave, and now as a result, despite being 2 laps down, of course, will now have to start in front of second on back. This is going to be tricky for him, to say the very least. He was probably hoping Barney would stay out, would go in rather this pit stop in turn Samil. He's going to be stayed pinned 2 laps down because of this call.
And all eyes are going to be on Brian Barney for that very reason. Barney, of course, not pitting, as Justin just mentioned. couple of seconds ago. And what's going to be very interesting is that right now we're on, what, 19 odd laps in, with 18 odd laps worth of green flag running. So the tyre wear will definitely be impacting him at this stage. The question is how much. All the other drivers behind will be having a keen eye on how he's able to manage things out with these worn out tyres. So that'll give them a really good idea about what the performance is like when your tyres are worn out. But definitely the one thing that's going to help out for him big time is going to be yet another caution. And as they all say in motorsport, cautions breed cautions.
See how this all fares out here again. Ray Aurora once again back to the pit lane with some of his trouble in the 22 car. Eric Mickey, the only car who is not in the lead lap. Still 33 cars on track for this green flag. It's Barney, Bennett, Pataska, Puteklis, Valverde, Wolf, Banfield, Snyder, Vabrotsky. Your top 9, Travis Henderson rounds out the top 10. Pace car is off. Field in control. Barney off and away he goes.
Good launch right out of the gate for Brian Barney as they cross the line. He's already gapped the field by some margin, but no doubt with the draft, though, and the tire wear, that might play in big time here as Henry Bennett is already looking around the outside, trying to find a way around Eric Mickey, and fast.
Right now, Mickey trying to unlap himself.
Yellow flag! Oh, huge crash!
Very back of the field, Darwin Mites, Dawson Brock, Ryan Mayer, Andreas Robertson again. Couple others scatter him on the backstretch. Well, that was extremely quick. More quicker than Brian Barney may have expected there. One corner. We made it one corner for before the second caution.
Should we already start counting how many cautions are we going to get here today? Because at the very beginning, the running was superb. Then, all by his own, that accident right there. And when one car spins out, well, this can happen oh so easily. And for the drivers behind, there's not much that they could do when you're traveling at those speeds. Even if it is just after a restart, dodging that can be so difficult. We take a look at the replay once again, and in a cloud of smoke, the chances of so many drivers getting a good result have disappeared. That was mighty.
So we are back under caution, and several drivers now have to at least take the faster pair. Of note, Rene Aurora is out of the car for the 22 machine, and an issue trying to get the damage repaired using the faster pair, it appears, on his regard. Robertson also having to take the tow. Everybody else still chugging their way along towards the pit lane here. And that's one of the risks here, is if you have any trouble early on, you lose that faster pair essentially for the rest of your race, Nolan. You also could accidentally take it if you aren't aware of that and accidentally leave it checked on your first initial pit stop. In other words, if you have an incident, you lose that banker early on, to say the very least. You don't want to be in trouble, to be the quite frank point. So again, back under caution, lap 22 out of 250 to reset. Niskanen, Mites, Brock, Richie Hearn, Tom Drailing, Andreas Robertson among your competitors having to come down this caution flag for respective damage repair. Most have topped off, one or two electing to just get the full damage repair and try and bank the faster pair here, Nolan.
It's a massive misfortune for a lot of the drivers that had to come down, you know, like Andreas Robertson that had to take the tow, and, you know, other drivers like that, because they are leaving themselves extremely vulnerable here for the remainder of the race, really. It's going to be a huge challenge to even get those cars to the finish of the race now, let alone, you know, having to finish them high, especially with the fact that those drivers, they're going to have to be working their way up through the order of the slower cars as well.
Indeed. Yes, a lot of those drivers are around the teens before the caution flag coming through that corner you've seen on the replay. Of note, your biggest mover so far, Sean Brown, races for HW Racing. He is up 15 positions to 17th after the caution flag. Colin Martzoff plus 10, Kirk Crum plus 13, plus 11 for Jock Show. Those are your double-digit big movers, along with Thomas Geisler, who missed the start and nearly fell a lap down before the caution, is plus 11. So, your biggest mover just happens to be driving the pink car.
The interesting thing is, though, that lots of these drivers at the very top of the field have elected not to go for that pit stop. So, just as we discussed a couple of seconds ago, they could be very vulnerable. But at the back, you could see a group of cars with fresher tyres. And that's the one thing we are going to find out right here. How much of an impact will worn tyres have? How much faster are the fresher tyres going to be? We have multiple drivers on the back of the field. Case in point, Thomas Geisler, not even Andy Banfield, Marcus Niskanen and Richie Hearn. All those drivers have taken fresher rubber. Keep a keen eye on them to know what the difference will be, because that could essentially define this portion of the race.
I believe most of those drivers ended up just taking the faster pair, though, should note, because again, the tire difference can come into play. The ones who would be in that range, though, are Banfield and Niskanen, who had the longest pit stops out of anyone with some of the damage repair. Others just took 3.9 seconds on average. Dawson Brock, 18.8 seconds under the caution flag. Of note, Aurora's jumped back into the race car. He is several laps down. Robertson, after a 3-minute and 10-second tow in pit stop, 2 laps down. Eric Mickey also pinned, 2 laps down. It is Barney, Bennett, Pataska, your top 3. Putekos, Valverde.
We just had a spin. Richie Hearn just lost it in turn 3 all on his own.
No caution as the green flag is out. He's off of the grass. There is contact off the start. Sarkvist and Mayer have collided to bring the caution back out, and that just may have bailed out Richie Hearn. What in the world just happened here?
My goodness me, this drama already. So first, the spin for Richie Hearn is what we're going to focus on. So much horsepower, cold tyres. Well, that's a combination that never works out. Now then, what's happened between these guys? So they're all single file right here, and there's just... I don't even have words to describe what just happened right here. It's just going to be a straight trip back out of the pit road for safety car.
Again, single file restarts per IndyCar regulations, and for some, if you mistime it, you're likely going to have to lift off, and the cars behind you do not anticipate that in some cases. Now, a couple more drivers have some damage as a result, and again, to remind you, it was Richie Hearn in that 70 car who pulled off into the grass, had that issue coming towards that same line, single file. The former IndyCar driver in winter in Las Vegas in real life.
You know, looking back at that Richie Hearn incident here, Justin, he was actually a little above the pacing speeds. He was trying to catch the tail of the field. You had a few cars that were still trying to rush up there. He locked the front left tire. That's what shot him around, was the fact that he locked the brakes up, slowed down a bit too fast for the car to handle. That's what sent him around and into the grass. And I don't even know what to say about the restart there. I mean, that's a very interesting one, I think is safe to say.
You see that pace car off and rolling. Car still getting sorted, by the way, as a result of the caution flag. Ryan Mayer had to come down for damage repair with the caution flag. Lights are still on top of the pace car after that incident. No one ducking down off cycle. And Brian Barney continues to stay out with all of this. We have had a combined maybe 2 to 3 tenths of a lap of green flag racing since that first pit stop window. Yes, you heard that right. After a caution coming out of turns 1 and 2, and then the caution now off the start, the second time.
That's what this race is turning out to be, no less than a pantomime at this stage. Who knows when we'll actually have a proper lap? I mean, the last I remember at one of the dirt races that we had, that was a similar situation with over 13, 15 odd cautions. Let's just hope that we get nothing like that here, because the opening stint of racing, the first 18 odd laps, that was superb. That is a way to settle a championship. Behind the caution, that's not the way to settle a championship.
By the way, full damage repair used for fast repair for Ryan Mayer after trying initially a full wing change did not apply, however. Sarkvist having to come down. Richie Hearn also putting for new tires. Baker trailing, also coming down under this caution flag as a result of some of the trouble at the back of the field. And when you race these types of cars and know that you need to anticipate the start, how difficult is it knowing if you cause a check, you're essentially causing calamity behind you?
it's a lot of pressure that's put on to the guys here at the front of the field to make sure that, you know, they time the restarts great so we don't get those sorts of checkups. There are a few cars that come down behind them actually into pit road. But going back to what you were saying, Justin, it's challenging when you're at the front of the field. So you're trying to make sure you don't cause that big checkup. But it's also equally as challenging at the rear of the field, because most of the time you don't have a very good eye on the leader, so you're trying to do your best to time it with them. And what also doesn't help the checkup is if you start going early, then have to realize that the leaders never actually win, and then you have to slam the brakes because the rest of the field is checking up in front because they were doing the exact same thing. So it's a massive challenge with these single file restarts on both sides of the grid.
And at the same time, on top of that too, Nolan, you say start in a lower gear and mistime it on the throttle, and you're behind that, you step on the gas, you're spinning off into the infield.
Yeah, indeed. It's the low gear, high revs plague that plagues really all open wheel cars. I mean, it's not even just on restarts. You see this happening. It could be like hairpins on a road course that this happens on too. It's a very challenging thing to do. That's why you see a lot of these drivers starting in the second gear, because it's more, you know, reliable that they're not going to be spinning the tires on the restart if they started in second. Unlike Ulus Pateklis, who is going to be very daring and shift down to first.
Well, he's trying to get the good launch, to say the very least. 223 laps to go. Let's try this again for a third time, shall we? Drivers who jump down under that last pace lap were Brock and Romner to come down for additional service. Green flag is out. We're back on our way. And a slower start despite the first gear for Ulus Pateklis. Actually, it loses ground off the jump.
Let's have a quick look whether or not he'll be swallowed up by the cars behind. Doesn't quite seem to be the case, but still, cars going too wide initially. Not smart, not let's say excited enough at this stage to go 3 wide, because they know that they want a bit of green flag running. That sort of racing was not recommended right here. Again, dusk time, the sun is setting, temperatures will be cooling up, so there will be more grip on offer. But does that mean better running for Dallas Pataska? He's using the outside line to his advantage. Still getting closer.
The race leader, though, you seen on the bottom side in 3 and 4. Henry Bennett drove by everyone like they were standing still. Bennett is now back at the point of the 007 machine. Also, Eric Mickey, remember, is still in the mix of all these cars, trying to unlap himself at least once. Barney still holding on to second. Pataska, though, ready to pounce for P3 as he goes up the racetrack with the momentum. 3 wide for P3.
So 3 wide for the third and second and fourth positions, all in the background. Looks like the driver of the inside, Ulus Pateklis, backs out of that one, does not want to take it 3 wide on the bottom into the corner. That allows Brian Barney to jump down to the low side. Remember that Brian Barney as well is still on the older tires, I do believe. So this is definitely not easy for him. And look at this, Pateklis dropping back big time as a massive checkup on the back straightaway.
They were going 4 wide down the backstretch. That caused the check as Wolf nearly squeezed him into Barney's side pod. Still, though, all of this is helping out Bennett build up a cushion of half a second. He is still, however, the downside for him, having to fight still with Mickey, who is still running his lap back in all of this, and everybody else, you know, right back on in. That's one of the difficult parts is once you break the toe, it's hard to gain it back if you're a competitor. However, you also need the draft to gain back onto it, and all these cars behind Joshua Wolf have almost lost the draft already just about to Pataska. That's how quick the satellite racing car has been to close up to the top 2 group in the car for the drivers up front.
Interesting enough, even with Eric Mickey too, although he's a lap down, he will fight for that position, and that's just because in oval racing, there is no concept of a blue flag. You've got to fight for your position even if you're a lapped car. Hopefully we don't see something like what we saw at Indianapolis, with cars constantly the lap cars constantly trying to cause trouble with the other ones. And interestingly enough, Mickey might be 5th in the championship, but he races for Bombshell and they won the points in the teams too. So this should be very interesting to see how all this pans out towards the end.
Trevor Borowski, prior to the race on the YouTube version of this broadcast today, had mentioned Grizzly would need to finish roughly 7 spots in front of Bombshell's cars on average. Caution flag is out, and it's some of the Bombshell cars involved. Kirk Crum, John Lane down the backstretch. Into the corner, in fact, out of turn 2.
And that was Kurt Crum that ended up running through the back end of John Lang, and that caused that to be best. If you take a look at the replay, look at that hard shot to the outside wall. That car is absolutely demolished, just got clobbered to the outside wall. And then, sure enough, one other driver blasted through that as well. Andy Banfield, I believe, might have gotten a piece of that as well.
So a lot of tempers flaring, as you also seen a bit of smoke in front. There was your contact apparently between Weigert and Henderson. All these drivers ping-pong around and bring us back at our yellow with significant damage, and all this still is while prior to this caution still, Brian Barney yet to pit at all in this one. Everybody else has come down at least once. Everybody 20th on back has had to come down at least twice now. Once for a scheduled stop, once for attrition, to say the very least. Crum using the tow, John Lang having to come down for service this past time by with this caution flag. Now it gets intriguing at the strategy though, Samil, because the cautions keep on flying. Eventually though, you'd have to come down for the second set, but most of it's been run under caution for the set, and no one ducking down for the fuel. Barney, of course, having to come down. He's reached his limit. 34 laps is that mark with the caution flags.
Yep, he has come down the pit lane at this case, and it'll be interesting to see how drivers map that on. In fact, if you split the race equally, it should be 36 laps odd between the stints, but of course that isn't what happens in real life with all the major incidents with cautions and everything coming into perspective. But what about these guys then? What can they do even by staying outside? Remember, they did take fresher tires rather soon. I mean, I think it was what, 10 odd, 15 odd laps ago, so they shouldn't be facing major problems in terms of tire wear as such, but with fresher and faster cars behind, I think that'll be interesting to see what happens, especially at the beginning, with all the other drivers who have lost position with the pit stops, trying to gain something right here.
One driver who made the call to come down to pit, Ross Banfield, elected to take a tire set. Remember, needs positioning, so he sacrificed track position, go off cycle now. David Baker also came down the pit lane. Richie Hurd once again topped off on fuel. Andy Banfield, Tom Drayling, with Sarkvist among the drivers pitting. Darwin Might also coming down this caution flag for 14 seconds of repairs and service. To get back to the discussion with the 007, of course, very emotional weekend for anyone a fan of the James Bond movies. Of course, 007 referring to James Bond. Sean Connery, the original James Bond, passed away this weekend at the age of 90. The Scottish actor went from obscurity in the past to international fame, where he became the original James Bond. Again, Sean Connery, age 90. Emotional weekend for movie fans across the globe, to say the very least. And of course, should be worth noting, UK and iRacing driver is your race leader, who's driving that 007 machine in that green and red car today.
An emotional weekend indeed for a lot of people. I mean, a brilliant actor of a brilliant series. I think it's a bit of an understatement to say that. So Henry Bennett is certainly sporting the number and sporting the nation as well, as he is running out there in the front. No doubt, if he wins this one, we all know who he's going to be winning it for.
Indeed. 214 to go when we get back rolling this time by Bennett, Dallas Pataska, Joshua Wolf, Puteklis Valverde, your top 5 at the moment. Of note, Weigert has already moved up 14 spots, 20 positions now game for Brown and Geisler, with the different strategy calls being made here. Eventually, though, we had to get a long green flag run. At least half of this stint, compared to the last run, has been placed under caution flag laps for these drivers. At minimum, we've had maybe 2 green flag laps so far. Since the first caution, I should say.
Yep, the first stint was pretty exciting, with drivers fighting themselves hard, cleanly on the track, with everything at stake. But ever since that first caution has come in, it's just been super stop-start. That's the problem. Let's hope for a good one right here. The drivers are ready to go.
Talk about stop-start. Massive checks. Some of the drivers having to slam on the brakes in the backdrop. Several tire smoke puffs brought up. No contact, though. Already 2 to 3 wide where the biggest puff came.
Really impressive that they did not wreck right there. There was a lot of stop and starting, like you said. A lot of drivers had to slam the brakes to avoid getting black flag for passing prior to the line. One of the big battles right now, Mike Gaunt running the outside line in the 9th position. Now up in 8th. He's trying to do battle with Alexander Wiggert for the 8th position at the moment. This is in one of the big puffs of smoke where we saw the smoke fly from the big checkups.
Take a look on board now. This is Sean Brown in his 3rd start of the season, looking to show what he can do once again in these Indy cars. Brown right now still hasn't been able to find his way past Tom Geisler, though. In fact, let him on by. Move Geisler is your biggest mover now. Up towards the front, though. Wolf and Buteklis are trading spots back and forth for second.
And this is a battle worth watching out for, because both these guys have been proper stalwarts of this championship. Here we come then for the lead. This is going to be. Will the outside line work yet again? Will Buteklis get the move on Bennett? He's got his nose up ahead for now, but momentum is going to be critical in this case.
And pushing up the track as well. The difficult part in all this too, Nolan, is you see that car still trying to side draft hard to the left side of Bennett. That is still Mickey looking on lap himself. He hasn't backed down at all to your race leader. He wants to go only 1 lap down. That would be the only driver 1 lap down if that ends up happening. And he doesn't want to lose that opportunity. And if you're Buteklis and Wolf, guess what? That's extra dirty air that's going to end up happening to your race car trying to figure out a line here.
Mickey has got to be very, very careful here, though, because a couple laps ago, he actually nearly doored Bennett onto the apron, so he has got to make sure that he keeps that clean as he gets close again in a turn number 3. Mickey is driving it hard right now, trying to get himself 1 lap down. Meanwhile, in the back, Joshua Wolf trying to pick up the 3rd position. We might go 3 wide for second again as Pataska's trying the outside.
Have to remember, Satellite Racing features the champion for the American region this year, Christian Schauner. Why is that important? Christian Schauner, one of the most influential setup builders for that program, also runs the NASCAR Coco iRacing series. Pataska is the main person who works with him. And in turn, it's now Pataska up to 3rd and ready to attack for 2nd. Back single file up towards the front, by the way, for your race leader, as Pataska is getting the top line to work the best out of anybody, Samil. Everybody else has been pushing up at a 4 and having to check up.
Yup, that top line can be a bit risky, of course, with the wall waiting for you on the right-hand side. But as the race progresses, drivers do tend to move up more on the top-hand side as the grubber gets laid down slowly. But now again, Pataska has been able to use it to his advantage from the very beginning. That is his ace up the sleeve. What can you do in this case then? The racing is just getting hotter just as the sun sets right here at California, at Fontana Speedway, mind you.
Instant time, by the way, is around, surprisingly, 1642. For those wanting specific, that is around 4:42. A very early sunset here on November the 1st in Sim Day 2020. Track temp 89 degrees Fahrenheit at the moment, 88 air temp. Very little wind, though, to factor on in. Wind can be trouble here for a track such as this, especially when it comes to speeds. Wolf, though, is starting to drop back in this drafting pack. Valverde among the cars, starting to pick up pace in the backdrop of your battle for 2nd. Valverde looking to pounce and take away the bottom side right here.
Down the inside and into turn 1. Joshua Wolf, though, trying to pull the outside groove, and he's going to do so perfectly. Here comes Schneider trying to have a jump to the inside of the 874 machine. This is the battle now for the 5th position, but Schneider stalls out, didn't have the run down the back straightaway, so he is forced to hold on to 6th for now.
Let's follow along with some of the screenshots of the Discord for the Major Series. Plenty of drivers practice fully under the lights for later on tonight. Again, this is one of the longest races of the entire season. One of the few full-distance races. Up there with the Daytona 500 and the World 600 when it comes to length. Now, the drivers looking to get some mighty speed. Snyder, the biggest run of anybody, a triple toe, but forced to check up. Goes underneath Valverde and takes away the spot.
And this is an excellent onboard camera of Snyder, driver's eye. You can see how he tries to just get the draft of the other car because the straight line advantage will help him out a great deal. Look at him. He has to avoid it. Look at how bumpy the track is. Just keep on juggling right here. Here he comes, then gets a good run on the outside line. Checks up to the very top. Has he got the position though? That's the key question.
Answer is no, as you see on the left side of your screen. Again, the right side is the onboard here. And keep in mind, you upshift or downshift at a wrong moment, you can over-rev the engine, and in that case, you lose the gear for the rest of the race. Snyder with the good cross, though, off the corner, able to power through, using the 5th gear to his advantage to take away the spot for 4th.
This is becoming a hornet's nest here. Jacques Show in the midst of this, trying to get inside as well. He almost went 3 wide to the back straight away into turn number 3. Oh, trouble behind him. Looks like Jacques Show, big slide through turn 2, somehow managed to save it. That has got to be the best save we have seen all season.
Jacques Show, let's take a look at this. He clipped the apron with the left side tires, but 9 times out of 10 in these types of cars, you're wrecking. Massive, massive save for the no-emission car, however, only loses about 7 spots, and we stay green as several cars were able to dodge.
Jacques Show, who are you, David De Gea? That was an outrageous save. The way he kept on driving, the way he kept hold of his car. Wow, that must be some super grippy tires that he's got on there, but otherwise that was already gone.
Something's going on with Joshua Wolf, though. He has dropped now 10 spots. He is way off the pace all of a sudden.
He actually had a big slap with the wall off turn 4 here, Justin. I'm looking at it now. End of lap 47, tagged the wall off of 4 and had to maneuver the car to the apron, so he lost a ton of speed, and it looks like that car is broken aerodynamically. Something is fundamentally wrong with that car. Likely has damage from that hit to the wall, because he is just dropping like a stone.
Yeah, that car needs to come down here. That is not good. And again, the side pod was crushed in, as well as the side wall for the aerodynamics, as well as part of the suspension. He's now coming in, had to at this point. That was overall 15 spots lost in the span of 2 laps after pushing up, and that was something that was coming, though, Samil, because that driver and that car was sliding higher and higher every corner exit and nearly hit somebody on the outside a couple times, as we've seen from some of the onboards. Suspension's also broken completely.
Could have been far worse for Joshua Wolf. Could have ended up taking away a few cars. And look at this, how he's just made sure that his car is in the right pit box. Goodness me, for Joshua Wolf, he has to go hunting all on his own then.
So, Wolf in a bit of trouble, already 17 seconds in the box. This is going to be a lengthy one, likely for Wolf, and maybe out of contention to say the very least now. But your top drivers, Bennett by 1.8 seconds now in the lead. Dallas Pataska second, Butekla Snyder among your main pack with Henderson, Valverde, Thompson, Wager, Gaunt, Partridge, your top 10. Wolf still in that pit box now for more than 40 seconds, has already lost the lap. Jacques Show has also had to come down and pit, by the way, in the 34 car.
Got a battle on.
Finally, Wolf is gone, and as you see on the left side of your screen, as you were just mentioning there, the battle's finally on for P3.
Schneider down the inside. Butekla's trying to have a go around the outside. He's trying to hang on, but it looks like Schneider... Oh, tank slapper for Schneider off of turn 4. Another brilliant save there. This time for the 874. The car was weaving left, right, and left, and once again, somehow managed to hang on to it. You got to have cat-like reflexes to hang on to a car like this when you're flying around here at 220 miles an hour.
Good bobble, to say the very least. Well, good save on the bobble, rather. But we're already past 200 total laps to go. 197 to go this time. For reference sake, for some of the drivers who pit under the caution, Brian Barney, Ross Banfield are only up to 14th and 15th. They are already almost 8 seconds back of your race leaders after trying to go off cycle, whether it's because they didn't hit the first caution or because they wanted to go and try something different. And oh, by the way, the main thing too, on top of breaking that draft for Henry Bennett, it's almost feeling like Eric Mickey is kind of actually helping this out because they can push each other.
Oh, it's breakfast.
And that's now gone. And it is the Udox Motorsports Hero driver in Sörnqvist around down the backstretch going. You've seen this.
This was an incident just all on his lonesome. Once again, just tagged the apron. Had a good save, but it looks like the car just never got settled. Got into the apron a second time as a result of that one, and that spun him all the way around. Slid just barely back up, and that is what brought the yellow out.
So like we're bringing much of the field this time for this caution. Here's the look. Yep, just hit way too much apron, and initially it's safe, and then hit it again.
Marcus Romer had a very close call at this. He was right behind this mess as well. Had to really check up on the brakes in order to avoid this one. So that was a very close call for the 81 car in the midst of that whole mess as well.
So this will close back up the pack. Don't be surprised to see possibly Mickey have to take the wave here. If he wants to lap, he might be able to make it if there's a quick caution. Everybody else ducking on in for a scheduled service here. Now this gets to the interesting part because there are several different tire strats amongst the field as we talked about. Now it's the matter of if drivers elect to just top off or if drivers elect to take one of their several sets available for them. With this caution flag, every car in the lead lap has come in.
Well, it's quite clear, isn't it? We are reaching, but more or less the end of the second stint of the tyres too, so drivers would naturally be wondering whether or not, in fact, there would be a school of thought saying perhaps let's wait for a couple of more laps, who knows, it could be another caution, and maybe then that would be the right time to take fresher tyres, giving them the advantage towards the end later on. Who knows, only time will tell with this.
I mean, I would argue that Ross Banfield, remember, pit from 9th. He is in 21st and is now up to a 22-second pit stop. His 777 may be having a problem for him to already be losing that much time. Remember, he was battling with Brian Barney for the 13th position before the caution flag, and the answer is he is currently, I think, getting some damage repair possibly done in that pit box. So in other words, there may be some trouble for Banfield specifically because his steering is not completely straight on that race car. Coming out of the box for reference sake for you dogs at the end of the speedway. So 195 to go, coming up to 194 this time by. It's been an interesting race so far. Some good battles up towards the front for Henry Bennett. I don't think if I'm him, I wanted to see that caution flag.
No, not at all. I mean, Henry Bennett was running away with that lead. He had already got the field by well over a second, so he was prepared to just run away with the lead and let the rest do battle behind him. Should note that I believe... Did Eric Mickey? I think Eric Mickey did just get his lap back, and he is going to get waved around the pace car. So at long last, Eric Mickey's campaign to get, well, one lap back at least, is complete.
There's that wave right there, and that puts him one lap down. However, is at the edge of his fuel tank. There's a 2-lap difference compared to the rest of the field since he spun down the pit lane prior to the first caution of the race. We hoping to hold off Robertson, Crum, Wolf. The 1-lap down drivers, John Lang, currently the only driver out of the race. And Aurora, 6 laps down, is in 33rd position. When the drivers also coming down this time by, for top off, are Drilling, Rumner, Henderson. This caution with David H. Baker. So your top 10 again, it's Bennett, Butekwas, Bataska, Snyder, Valverde, Gaunt, Thompson, Geisler, Barney, and Partridge. Your top 10. Who are you keeping an eye on now with things bunched back up and no lap cars, a buffer now for Bennett?
I honestly think we might need to keep an eye on Udos Puteklis on this restart. Remember, he started in the 2nd position, and he was looking to be fighting it hard with Henry Bennett until that first yellow flag where Mickey really split him up. So now that he doesn't have him in the way, we might be able to see Puteklis have a run at the lead here.
Really trying to back it off. They're not up against the wall. In fact, for the top 3, Bennett is going to the middle of the racetrack. Everybody else is up against the wall for the single file restart. Interesting decision. As the green flag is out, we're back underway. Off and away goes Bennett. Puteklis trying to pull up. Remember, he fought side by side for several laps with Bennett up towards the front. Dallas Bataska also checks back into line.
So single file all the way back to about the 8th position right now. And now Henry Bennett big on the inside. Puteklis with a massive run, though. Jukes to the outside line. And Puteklis is through to the race lead. Clears by the time he gets to turn 3. Still keeping it to the middle groove, though, and Henry Bennett's going to get his front wing in there again.
How long does it last, though? Because Henry Bennett has the preferred bottom line. However, better straight line speed for the kinetic racing machine. For the first time in a while, it's a non-leader not named Bennett. This time, Buteklis becomes your third different leader of the race, but Henry Bennett takes it right back down off of turn 2, and that was coming in quick.
So the battle for the race lead very much on, as well as the big Hornets. That's the cars behind them that's trying to file their way through and see any spots that they can pick up as well. So Putegas looks like he's going to have to drop back a little bit. Now you see cars in the back are weaving all over across the racetrack. I see Isaac Schneider just trying to have a look at Yal Valverde down the inside, but look at this. Putegas once again trying the outside line. Got to get that thing rubbing in a little bit more, though, around the top groove before it can really be effective. Drag racing it out with Henry Bennett now down the back.
Still back and forth a little bit. Valverde, meanwhile, is shot up to P3. What a run so far now for Valverde off the jump. It looks like at least Kinetic Racing has good short run speed, but once the tires settle in, it gets more difficult. In part because look at that straight line speed with the draft. The thing is, Bennett's playing this perfectly. Just paint the white line, don't clip that apron, and force them to try and fight it on the top line somehow.
And in the early stages of the run with fresh tires, there really is nothing that you can do around the outside line if you're just painting the line like Henry Bennett is right now. Bennett is playing the defensive game perfectly right now, really just can't do anything. That is, Putegas can't do anything about Henry Bennett now. He's going to have to try to find another way through, because you should know that unlike in the stock cars, the Major Series does have a rule where you're not allowed to pass on that apron there. It very much is like a yellow line rule that you often see in various Cup Series across the service and in the real world.
You hit it right on the head. You explained that perfectly. If this was an official race, you may see drivers use that apron, absolutely, but below the apron line today is out of bounds. Cars should only go there to avoid an incident and never advance position or time. That is a part of the additional rules and procedures for this race today. And of course, as seen, IndyCar rules have applied for pace laps and restarts for today's racing. Restarts with 10 or fewer laps will have all the lap time cars by the end of the longest line for today's action. In other words, there's not as much space as compared to seeing some of the action. In other words, Putegas needs to somehow force Bennett into a mistake, and Bennett is the hardest person you can think of to force a mistake in an IndyCar.
To keep on doing that, he'll have to knock on that door, just be ever so present in that position. Just be there, just be in his mirrors, remind him that you're the man who wants to win. And that is exactly what he's doing. It may not come now, it may come 5 laps down the line, but perhaps 20, 30, 40. That is where the window could open. That is where you could start to see cracks appearing on Bennett's surface. Now, as of now, though, everything is just fine. Meanwhile, at the back, wow, some of the swerving. Absolutely dramatic.
Some of these drivers have absolutely flied through the field, including Mike Gunn, who just shoved up someone up. Ronnie Thompson put up towards the wall, and everyone else having a fan around. That was near trouble. Was going to say Mike Gunn came out of nowhere, and then he took that run and sent someone nearly to the fence. What a save by Thompson.
I take it back. That is the save of the race right there. Not because he managed to correct the car, but because he kept it out of the wall. We're talking he was about 2 feet away from that car slamming into the fence. And if that car hit the fence, that 100% would have been a caution. But now, Riley Thompson is all the way back to the 9th position. He has got a lot of work ahead of him if he's going to try to fan his way back up through the order.
I mean, give God credit, he had a great run. The problem is, there was a car. And for Thompson, he shuffled back to 10th. Gaunt still up in 6th spot after that massive save as the lead still battling back and forth. By the way, Eric Mickey has reached the end of his fuel tank, by the way. He took the wave, remember, has to pit this time from 29th.
At least he's got his lap back, but that could go back again.
Right away. Mike Gaunt's off in the grass from P5. All the way through the infield grass down the front stretch. No caution as he's able to keep it out of the pack.
What is it with drivers just making the most outrageous saves today? My God, I guess he just gets pushed onto the grass. And look at this. Now, when I say the world's fastest lawnmower, I mean it. How has he kept it on track? And the main question is, why did this happen?
Looked like he almost snapped loose a little bit there, Nolan, down at the bottom of the racetrack, trying to go across some of the seams. And keep in mind, the seams in real life are dangerous to run on because they are up to 2 feet thick in some parts, drivers have described in the past.
Yeah, that was exactly what happened there. He just snapped a bit loose, and that is one of the casualties of racing in an IndyCar. You don't see that all too often when you're running, for example, the stock cars here, but in an IndyCar, they're a lot more fragile to that sort of thing. So, those seams, definitely a huge risk to drive on, at least for a long portion at a time if you're not just crossing over them. So that, I think, makes it even more impressive that he managed to skate that car through the grass and keep it under control when you're in the grass as well.
I believe we may have had an air one go off there. Ryan Mayer had gained most of his track position back. He's back outside the top 10, and he's got a damaged front wing. He also lost several positions off the corner, was in 7th. Believe he actually knocked the fence down out for turn 4 for him to damage his car, and is now having to come down likely this time.
Another bombshell car having a proper bombshell of a day, it seems.
And keep in mind, these drivers do have the ability to adjust the weight jacker, which is a great point to bring up here in these oval races to adjust the handling of the race car. You have to be on top of it, though, Nolan. You miss even a little adjustment for the weight jacker for a corner, you'll snap it around.
The cars are extremely fragile when it comes to these sorts of things, and it does show, how talented a lot of these drivers.
Richie Hearn has lost several spots now down the back straightaway. The 70 car, no caution though, as he's lost the whole front nose.
He barrel rolled in turn 2. I just looked at it. He barrel rolled into the catch fence in turn 2. How that was not a yellow flag is beyond me, because look at what's going to happen here.
Oh, what? How is that not a caution flag as he rode the fence like Herbie? Yes, that's a reference to Herbie fully loaded, where, if you remember at this track, Herbie's car rode the fence for a race win. That time, the car rode the fence and cost him a caution to save his repair.
I don't know, perhaps the iRacing stew is just saying, yeah, we've had enough cautions for today, but look at this crash. Bumps up onto the wall, slap bang onto the fence. And this happened in real life. Oh, goodness me. What? 10 on 10 for the synchronized 360? That's sadly not going to help him out in terms of the race, is it?
Yeah, no, and you can see each part of that front wing popping off the second it touches the fence. Nearly lost the back wing completely, riding the safer barrier as well. And again, no caution for Richie Hearn. He's in 31st position on the track and still trying to get to the pit lane for reference sake. By the way, your top 2 have also broken away now by 9/10 of a second from Thomas Geisler, who is leading the second group now, by the way.
That has got to be one of the most spectacular sights I've ever seen at this racetrack before. I don't think I've ever seen something quite like that. I've seen it plenty of times at tracks like Indianapolis, but not here. I honestly thought that would have been a yellow flag. If you ask me, that should have been a yellow flag. And you have a car barrel rolling into the catch fencing. How that was not a yellow is beyond me. Looks though like Ulus Pateklis is still trying to run down Henry Bennett for the lead. Henry Bennett, though, weaving all over the track like it's Indianapolis, trying to break that toe.
Thing is, it looks like, though, Puteklis' car is starting to fall off, and this was something seen a little bit similar if you think back to the first long run of the race prior to first yellow. Some of the kinetic cars started falling off after about 10 laps or so on green flag laps. They're already 19 laps into their stint, including caution flag laps.
Could just be the way the car is set up. They'll be banking on more cautions, banking on a more stop-start race to help them get out of this rut. As it goes long, that's where they start to lose the pace, and for them, that's just not going to work out as it stands.
Steve Valverde trying to still scrap right now. He is in a spot, clinch the championship, especially with Ross Banfield still stuck in 15th position. The 777 has just gone nowhere ever since they went off cycle, Nolan, and it's cost them. Because before, Banfield was keeping up with Valverde. That decision to go off cycle on the tires is still seeing him pay the price.
when you take a gamble like that, it really is a massive, massive gamble. And now, though, that he's made that decision, he has to follow through with it. And I think that's the part that he is not liking now, is the fact that he doesn't have a choice but to follow through with it. Taking a look to one of the other battles on the track, we just saw that was Ray Partridge that just completed the pass for the 7th position around Riley Thompson.
So Riley Thompson falling back a little bit with those scrubbed up tires. Again, Riley Thompson, he's talked about he's run with total downforce much of the season, changed organizations mid-campaign. This will likely be the last race representing those colors. Let's take a look, though. This is Trevor Bobrovsky, P18 with another good save. Everybody clipping the apron today.
All these drivers, when they do stuff like that, they do show just how good of a reflex they have to have. Because look at that! I mean, that is absolutely remarkable.
Right at the very edge of near complete trouble. And how bad is the fall off now if you're a kinetic racing car or a fan of Protectless? 1 second lost in 3 laps to Henry Bennett. He's fallen back to the second pack. Bennett is gone.
And especially normal racing where the gaps are sometimes even hundredths of a second, that is a huge amount of time to gain back.
By the way, reports of a dooring recently between Pataska hitting Snyder. That was P5. That is back and forth right now. Pataska, the car on the bottom side, able to make the run. This was around that section before, and you can tell why. It's a little back-end happy now for Dallas Pataska's car.
The contact actually happened up front with Thomas Geisler about a lap ago. That's what caused that one. That caused Steiner to have a big check and left him under fire from Dallas Pataska, who just was able to sweep right by in 3 and 4. So I should note the field is starting to split up a good portion now. We are a lot more single file now than we were at the start of the run. As Isaac Schneider trying to still run down Dallas Pataska now for the 5th position.
Right now the pace falling off 2 seconds or so for some of the cars. Well, if you're in the case of Bennett or have the draft, the main pack of cars has half a second to 7/10 of a second of fall off. That is incredible, to say the very least, what Henry Bennett's been able to do in this race so far. Already 2 seconds the gap, and completely has broken the toe with the rest of the field. And as we talked about, you break this draft to the track such as this, you're gone.
And what more can you do if you're this ridiculous? Even if you have great momentum, even if you have a good race car, which is well set up according to the conditions, unless you don't get back in the tow, it's going to be near impossible for you to get that position in. So that's going to be a big, big plus in terms of Bennett. But look at this battle that we're going to have right here. Oh my, this is nice.
This is Snyder with a nice move. Dallas Pataska, though, still getting the run and momentum off the corner. Good back and forth between these drivers. It's losing them a bit of time, though. They're now 4 seconds behind the leader and have lost now nearly a full second to the 2:39 of Thomas Geinsler in this scrap. Again, around the mid to later portions now of this stint. For reference sake, 27 drivers currently still among the drivers on the lead lap or 1 lap down. 26 total on the lead lap, separated by 19 seconds in the field.
So the battle for 5th place still underway. Isaac Schneider was able to get into the back end of Dallas Pataska, but still has not been able to really complete the pass. Schneider is taking a much tighter line, but Pataska is just better as he's able to push right up to the wall and the exit of the corners, unlike Schneider when he gets to the back end. Now, though, Pataska goes defensive, and Schneider will try the outside line this time around. Pataska squeezes him up as they go to turn 1. Looks like Schneider might try to dime it up the corner here.
Trying to, at the very least, not able to get the run quite yet. Again, draft you can pick up from 1.5 seconds at this track. It's not like some others where it's about a 1 second gap behind that you prefer. Some you can get away at 2. Here it's a 1.5 seconds. Whether it's been in a stock car or in an Indy car, that's usually the good reference point. Right now, all these drivers are in that mark for the most part, all the way back to 22nd. It's just the matter now of strategy and fuel saving going to be some of the critical parts, because the longer you can go, the better. Mike got with some trouble in the 21 car. I believe you just might have noticed, Nolan.
No, Joshua Wolf actually tagged the wall on lap 83 down in turn down to the back straightaway.
Yeah.
Had a big slide all the way through 3 and 4. Meanwhile, there was a car that actually spun out entering the pit road as well, and it was actually Rene Aurora on the same lap.
You see Aurora actually coming into the pit lane right now. He made it 45 laps, including the caution flag. He's been having a rough race, unfortunately for him. 10 seconds, the pit stop, by the way. But the point was just about to make there with all these scraps such as these and the ability, say, to lift and coast a little bit down some of the straightaways with the pull of the draft is the further you can go, the less time you're going to have to take for your final pit stop if it's under green. Because the less amount of fuel in the car, the faster your car usually goes. Caution is out as Henry Bennett not happy with some cars in front of him. We're under caution. Believe it was as a car, and Kurt Crum was trying to keep the lead lap, and I believe it might have been Wolf or someone else who brought the yellow.
Brian Barney.
Yes, that was the very end of the lead lap, in fact. So we're back on our yellow once again, and right towards the edge of the fuel window, and this spin is wide. This was, by the way, the battle for about 25th, last in the lead lap.
Slides around and manages to snap it back. Nicely. Oh my goodness, and who was that just dumped by the inside? Was that Rene Aurora just out of the pit lane? I think it was.
Believe so. So, we're under yellow again after that self-spin. And now the strategy gets intriguing. Everyone's starting to save some fuel. Here's a look, though, at Rene Aurora, who just had come down to pit. He couldn't make it any further in. He's past the blue cone. Had to pick a lane. Picks the one with the most pavement to the left.
Well, thankfully he didn't ram straight right in, so that's still a plus. But nevertheless, had he put just an lap later on, perhaps he would have saved more time.
They were right about, I think, to pit for green flag stops, by the way, in about 5 laps at the very most, at the pace we were going. Here they come, though. Everyone expected to come down this time by. They were in as far as 33 laps on their stint, including the last caution flag.
So not a surprise that just about everybody is coming down the pit road this time by. In fact, I believe the only drivers that are staying out right now were not on the lead lap. So definitely no surprise here. It really is common sense to just come on down to pit road and get yourself a fresh set of Firestone tires. Henry Bennett brings it down into his pit box. It will not be surprised again if we saw him leaving first.
I had a really good gap, and I know he was not happy with the battle going on with Kurt Crum for spots. Ross Banfield over in his pit box. That is not going to help his hopes for the title. But in the end, it's Puteklis who comes out first. Who does Puteklis with a better run to the pit lane and a faster stop gets him the spot, while Banfield drops to 20th. Make it 21st. Oh, and that might be a penalty for the car who just squeezed off. Andy Banfield crossed the apron line. That may cost him a couple spots, but it is Bennett who's now cycled forward. You've seen the side by side. Andy Banfield in the Apex car ended up going over the white line, and that may be a blue cone commitment violation for an unsafe pit exit. We'll have to see.
That definitely will be. He was all 4 tires back onto the racing surface. That is no doubt in my mind going to be an end of the longest line penalty for Andy Banfield here. And he's already dropping to the back. As you can see, he's having to let everybody through. There was no question on that one.
Yep, end of the longest line penalty now as a result. Courtesy of Ross Banfield with the squeeze coming off the lane. But everything cycled forward, and Puteklis is now having to let cars go, it appears, as Mike Gott has come down once more. So Puteklis, who was able to get the edge, now having to let several cars go. You see right here, they were already clear, and then he just has a brain fade.
Oh boy, just a slight lapse of concentration, and what a big price to pay for that.
Puteklis, we mentioned, also won the race off the pit lane. He's now had to let several cars go after he ended up getting a penalty. There was, I think, a commitment violation for him as well, as Bennett nearly hit the back end of him.
That is just so unfortunate. Had the lead off of pit road, and that is just the one thing he did not want to see, so he is having to drop all the way to the tail end of the longest line, definitely for what would be classified as an unsafe pit exit, or in this case, an improper pit exit.
Yes. Can confirm Puteklis touched his right side tires and put his car's tires on part of the racing surface. That's why now Puteklis will have to start from the 20s. So as a result of that, it's Bennett still in the race, leading control of the field once more. Valverde, Pataska, Geisler, Thompson, Weigert, Snyder, Partridge, Meintz, Martzov, your top 10. Colin Martzov, to be precise. An interesting race so far. Already up more than 5 caution flags in this race so far. As we expected, Bennett back to the middle line, everyone else up to the wall. Green flag waits, up and away, Bennett, another good launch.
Here we go then, hopefully we get another long green flag stint that can change things up. Good racing at the back there, while Valverde at the very peak end of the field, but behind is Pataska, Thomas Giesler. Who's going to get the edge? Pataska closes up on Valverde. Valverde, of course, leading the championship heading into this round. He has it all to lose right here.
If he doesn't win this race, he has to finish top 5, remember. In other words, he cannot afford any incidents battling for this lead, especially with Dallas Pataska wanting to fight for second and Riley Thompson making it a forced car scrap for the position. Bennett now with a chance to try and break away if these cars scrap for too long once the tire wear kicks in.
Valverde jumps back to the middle groove, trying to get in line with Henry Bennett. Bennett tries to jump to the middle groove now. Valverde's closing. Bennett hugging the white line again. Valverde trying to get a wider arc into the corner through the apex. Can he get the run down the front straightaway? Jumps back down to the bottom to get in line with the 007.
And once again, that's the draft coming in. Remember, Kinetic Racing, really good short run. They lost 3 seconds a lap, the second pack did, prior to the caution flag. As Thompson has now taken away P3 down the back straightaway with Pataska lifting off. Geisler now having to hold off 2 rows of cars behind them as they all fan out the different lines. Bennett prefers bottom, Valverde prefers middle, Thompson preferred a lane higher than that, up to corner exit. Riley Thompson looking to move up the second spot on the high side. Valverde backs it off the gas, move Riley Thompson up to the second step on the podium of the pylon so far.
Everybody's fanning out across the racetrack, trying to find some way to get it through because they know that you need to make these spots up early on the restart before the entire field fans out across the entire racetrack. And right now, Henry Bennett is just fighting for his life, trying to stay up in the front right now. But Riley Thompson will have something to say about it. He's trying to look around the outside. Meanwhile, y'all Valverde really squeezing Pataska, slamming the door shut right in his face as he got right to the gearbox.
And do you blame some of these drivers? It can be difficult to keep up with the times if you fight too long on the short run, as we've seen, because whoever's in clean space as they fight for a spot can break off and away and break the toe of the draft. Riley Thompson, though, the hardest challenger for Bennett yet. Bennett electing to go a lane up from the bottom this time as Riley Thompson's run dies up. And again, for clarification, he's running for TDR 4 points throughout the season, joined Simsa Esports earlier this year. From this point forward, expect him to run in those colors probably in the Major Series come 2021. He wants to bring those colors to the lead. Bennett lets him take the lead.
Who knows, it could be a smart decision in the long run, just staying behind in the draft. Going 3/4 on the throttle all the way in, not going full throttle. It'll help him save fuel towards the end, have a lighter car towards the end. That is what it could come down to towards the end. Of course, remember, this is just a transitional period in the race on this stage.
And keep in mind, too, these two up at the front are working together for team points for today's race. So Bennett essentially is a teammate to Riley Thompson for this finale. In other words, they're doing the smart thing, go back and forth and try and make a 2-car pack with themselves and break away from everyone else here.
This is actually helping Henry Bennett to conserve a little bit of fuel while he's running behind as well. As look at that, Riley Thompson not putting up a fight at all. Henry Bennett going to cruise through to the race lead once again. So they are definitely working together. What is often called sling drafting, where you just slingshot around the other driver and you go back and forth and let the other guy through, so you can manage to get yourself into your own little pack of your own. And look at this, it's already working. You can already see a gap forming back to third place.
They gained an hour 10th or so down the back straightaway, absolutely. And when you think back to, say if you run official race in iRacing, yes, there are some races that run at tracks like Daytona. It's very powerful. You don't execute it, you're going to lose more time running single file. Guess what? The gap is gaining more and more time every time they go through turns 1 and 2 right now. With their slingshot moves, another half a tenth gain that lap compared to the last time off the corner.
Thompson once again cycling back into the lead, going up top. Could be a good thing to do as a pride of a racing driver. You want to be the first person crossing the line every single lap, but is it the best thing to do here at this stage of the race? Bennett fights back now.
Might have a slight chance of getting a P2 championship finish, Thompson. It's been in the championship quite much of the campaign. As mentioned, 2 drivers have the realistic mathematical chance for the title, Banfield and Valverde, who has dropped back to P6. If I'm everyone else, though, here, Nolan, you'd have to think somebody has to pick this up. None of the other drivers among your top 10 really work with one another, who are, well, next to one another, essentially. But you can't just let the top 2 who are working together just run away from the rest of the pack here.
No, certainly not. And I think Trevor Vovorowski is looking to maybe disrupt this pattern, because he has actually broke. Oh, trouble! Big crash! Turn 2! Dallas Pataska flying, cartwheeling down the back straightaway, right in front of the track as the field flies up on him.
Caution flag is out, and it's the satellite racing machine of Pataska. And there goes that call. Contact with one of the bombshell cars in 1 and 2 off its back right rear tire. Isaac Snyder is the car. They make contact with the 874.
What?
You're right here.
Just a gentle touch, and he flips over. The catch fencing has attracted so many cars today, and it has just claimed yet another victim. High stakes here at the Auto Club Speed, when it all can just spill over so quickly. Far from sublime, that.
Everyone having to check out for the pace car here. So this regroups everybody and now makes things interesting, because we ran a decent amount of laps and the fuel numbers can be intriguing from here. We're not quite at halfway, but at the very minimum, still projecting about maybe 3 or 4 stops under green if they go from here. But at this rate, we haven't had a single stint of green flag pit stops this race for the lead group.
You got to remember as well that these guys are limited to, I believe you said, about 10 tire sets for this race. So that means that if we end up getting a string of yellows and people start coming down to get those tires changed out, they could use up those tire sets rather quickly. I actually remember in a race I was looking at just a little while ago, there was a poor driver that ended up pitting and using his tire set a lap early, had to go almost 100 laps on one set of tires. It was an absolute disaster. You need to make sure that you don't put yourself in that kind of situation, because that is the exact perfect way to shoot yourself in the foot there. Quite literally in this case.
By the way, for reference, 16th on back on your top pylon came down this time. Dawson Brock, Ross Banfield, Alexander Wager, Darwin Mines, Jock Show, Pataska. Well, for obvious reasons, Tom Drailing, Andy Banfield, Marcus Romner, Elvis Sorkvis, Sean Brown, Ryan Mayer among your competitors who have ducked down this time. So 27 cars are still in the lead lap, by the way, in this one. Your thoughts, Emil, as we are approaching that halfway mark, as mentioned. 146 to go, projected when we get back rolling. 147 this time.
Should be interesting, you know. Quite a few drivers find themselves in a bit of an exalted position as it stands right now, with lots of cautions going on, consistently being very stop-start, and I think in the long run you do need that momentum. You do want to be going on for a long time. Just feel your car for a bit, just get settled in. But sadly that's not been the case right here. Cautions have been reading cautions, and There's been so many of them. Who knows, it could end up being a race of attrition at this stage with lots of drivers using their fast repairs. And when we come to the battle for the championship, that is still yet to be decided. Yes, of course, Joao Valverde already has a couple of fingers on the title, but the way that this thing is going as it stands right now, the pendulum could swing anywhere.
Indeed. Want to go this time, by the way. And of course, with the California 500 this weekend is a somber note for racing fans. It was about 21 years ago, yesterday, where Canadian IndyCar driver, open-wheel driver rather, Greg Moore, was killed in an accident at this track. Down the back straightaway, was one of the rising stars of the sport at the time. In the 1980s and 90s, he rose up to the ranks, was competitive in kart specifically, and in turn lost his life here at this facility. Once again, a rough weekend for race fans in their memories, those who remember Greg Moore at this racetrack here at the time called California Speedway. For this race today, it's 146 to go. This time by, it's Bennett, Thompson, Bobrovsky, Valverde, Snyder, guys were Colin Martzoff, Henderson, Partridge, and Hagstrom, your top 10. This time, Bennett electing to stay up against the wall on the older tires. Earliest launch of the day, off and away he goes.
And this time, Riley Thompson not able to stick with him nearly as well. As Henry Bennett is very much off and away here. A huge gap back to Thompson into turn one.
Yeah, Thompson might have to get a couple laps to pull back in on the draft. Dallas Pataska, keep in mind, with that incident back in 22nd. Trevor Bobrovsky is now in that third spot. And now he's looking to pounce. Bobrovsky was closing in a little bit on them prior to that incident. So Bobrovsky had found a little bit of an extra gear to pull up in front, or towards the front rather.
Taking a look on board now, driver's eye with Trevor Bobrovsky as he dives it off in turn number 2, just barely topping out in the 6th gear, and you can see just close it in out of the back of Riley Thompson, who has reeled in Riley Bennett. He's got Joao Valverde behind him as well, trying to find his way up through the order as well. Valverde just hanging just outside the podium positions. He might be seeing if maybe the field can take themselves out in front of him, maybe make a little bit of a mistake as we get further onto this run before he decides to go for it. But remember, if he finishes 5th or higher, he's got that championship won. So right now, he's fine where he is. He doesn't really need to push all too hard, but he says, why not? Let's go for 3rd place anyway.
I mean, his team was competitive yesterday, right? Try and get yourself some good points overall and get yourself some more victories as a unit. Kinetic Racing, one of the top organizations in the history of the Major Series, up in P3. Now, Bobrovsky still now to 4th. Snyder and guys, we're now in the lead pack. Colin Martzoff is just hanging on to the draft of all these cars off the jump. Everybody else is already more than 2 seconds behind. And this is the type, pardon me for the, here, no one, you were saying.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. It's really just a group of 6, like you said, running up in the front here right now. Everybody else is dropping back by some big margin here. So this is not good for drivers like Colin Martzoff further in the back. We're just trying to keep a single file right now so they can maybe have a hope of catching up to the group in front.
Again, they're still within draft range. That's the bright side. But one of the cars you see trying to snake around, Bombshell Motorsports. Plenty of their drivers have just had terrible luck today and just have been involved in nutrition. For Isaac Snyder, though, he stayed mostly up towards the front all day, and this may be key, remember, for that team fight, especially the Grizzly TFR cars. Right now, the highest running of those drivers, by the way, for that group is Bobrovsky, who's in front of him for position. Sean Brown spun around for the caution flag from 22nd. And now he's demolished and back under yellow.
Combat into Banfield.
Yeah. We saw Sean Brown doing a good job in the early stages of the race. What's happened to him right here then? Is it on force? Is it involving other drivers? Has a bit of a lock-up. Not lock-up, my apologies. Just laying off a bit of smoke. He's on the top line and then, yeah, that's what happened. Another car in the wall and Sean Brown, well, tried to get something on the outside line. Very ambitious, mind you. But then just lost control and lost an estimate, rather, of where his car was in comparison to the other one.
Well, that was Sean Brown who was the car flipping up into the wall, by the way. It was the contact with the tire, though, Nolan, that just shot him up the track with Andy Banfield.
There you see it again, that time from the air, and that really tells the story right there. I think Andy Banfield was starting to push up due to the dirty air. He was already started to let out of the throttle. So take a ride on board with Andy Banfield and take a look at this. You're going to see, yeah, oh, actually, from that angle, it almost looked like Sean Brown came down across his nose.
Almost feel like that maybe he wasn't expecting him to try and come that far down from the top, almost.
I think Sean Brown was trying to dime it off the corner there, and I guess thought that Andy Banfield would be checking up a bit more than he was. So he was trying to come across the nose there so he could dime it off the corner and just sorely misjudged it.
One of the main things on the radio with the incident with Dallas Pataska had heard with Isaac Snyder was that when he lifted off, it still went up the track. There is that possibility of that, keep in mind as well, for these drivers. That's how tight it's been in the pack today. Just about everybody coming down to pit. Alexander Weigert, the only driver out of just about everyone staying out. Weigert had pit the last caution flag. These drivers now 23 laps on this stint in total before ducking down with the caution flag laps included. And should be no surprise that some of these drivers are just topping off on fuel right now across the pit lane. Some are taking another set of tires. First off the lane is Bennett, 8.3 seconds. Valverde, Thompson, your top three off the line. Three drivers stay out, Weigert, Brock, and Mayer, who all pit the last caution flag. And this is exactly what I talked about, Samil, with different strategies coming in.
Yep, that's what happens. It all converges at a stage like this one. And for all these drivers, it's going to be a critical one to wonder. Some of them are going on the alternate one, some of them just being as they are, just sticking to the plan. It's a bit of a mismatched situation. You have got to have confidence in your approach and your strategy at this case. Who knows how it's going to play out, but if you don't have that confidence, if you don't back it all the way through with your driving, probably it's not going to work towards the end.
To wait and see. By the way, for those wondering, the 239 has been one of the noteworthy stories of the day. Plus 26. And it's a name that may sound familiar if you think back to some of the open wheel racing series here on the iRacing service, where, for example, went back and forth and edged out John Poole III previously in one of Speed 51's esports competitions. Lots of open wheel experience in that respective camp. And by the way, he'll be one of your top drivers here. And the thing is, for Weigert, Brock, and Mayer, they might get away with staying out here because they were only about 5 laps on the tires.
And should note as well, there are a couple of lap cars in the mix of this as well. You got Kurt Crum in the mix, you got Andreas Robertson in the mix, so that could also throw in a wrench in the works with drivers like Henry Bennett and Ryan Mayer and Dawson Brock, who are all going to be trying hard to get by them immediately so they could gun for the lead again.
So these are the first laps led of the day for Alexander Weigert. It's been an impressive run, you'd have to say, though. Deceptively quiet run for him today. For Dawson Brock, however, it's been one where this is his chance to try and change things up here. Also of note, though, Andreas Robertson is mixed in with these cars. He was looking to take the wave and couldn't. He is pinned a lap down.
Oh boy. And from what we remember, Robertson did have a decent enough car. Just got caught up in a bit of trouble early on, and he's one driver who we know packs that punch at times, and this certainly puts him on the back foot in this case.
By the way, there's also a couple of our bombshell cars mixed in. Eric Mickey, believe, is also in this mix as well. On this top line, Get your popcorn out. There should be another interesting start. For the first time tonight, it's Alexander Wager in control of the field. He is off and away, and everybody caught sleeping. Several cars checking up in the mid-pack.
And one car spinning, as a matter of fact, caution flag is out again. The car that spun round was Jacques Shaw for what is going to be the second or third time today in the 34 machine. And he actually ran over Ray Partridge, who checked out big time in front of them, completely took the rear cowl off of Partridge's car. So no rear for Partridge. That might end his night here too.
That was coming though, because if you go up about 6 cars or so, there was one driver jetting out immediately off the jump, Trevor Borowski. A couple other drivers tried to jet out as there was a checkup. And then Jacques Shaw, not realizing there's a major checkup, smacks into him. You have to keep in mind, you pass a car on the left side of the line, you get a black flag that you'll have to serve for passing before you take the start.
But for Jacques Shaw, you've got to feel a bit of sympathy for him, because lately, I mean, he just, I don't know if his hands got slightly cut off, so he's only, one of his fingers being chopped off, unfortunately. So he's only driving with one hand, Jacques Shaw. And yes, it's a bit harsh on the other drivers, because then he's having a bit of a torrid day, but nevertheless, he's fighting hard. He's doing all that he can to race here. Just so unfortunate, isn't it?
Indeed. By the way, Sean Brown officially out of the race with that caution flag period the previous time by 135 laps to go once again. By the way, the last time we had these split strategies before, if you think back to the first caution flag, it was to the point where we had 2 to 3 restarts before they were forced to come down, some of these drivers. Jacques Shaw, for obvious reasons, will come down his caution flag. Already upwards towards double digits, if the count is correct here too, by the way.
Yeah, I think this is going to be probably about this, at least our 8th or 9th caution of the day. I wouldn't be surprised if we were hitting already, 10 or 11 or so. We are, it does seem though like we are approaching that halfway point. We're lap 116. Halfway point is about 175, if my math is correct. Not sure if it is. Might be 150. No, it's not 150. 125. There we are. I got it right.
Yeah. Yes, again, 125 is the halfway point of this race. Just taking a look at some of the splits now for some of these cars, by the way. There have been stints of this race, if you think back to the first caution period, where each caution period is about up to 4 laps. There were 11 straight laps of caution, including the lap of the restart before. Then there was a 5-lap stint, then there was a 4-lap caution period, then there was the long run from lap 37 to lap 54. The caution, everyone else then came down. The next long run was laps 58 to 85, then the next caution from laps 86 to 90, before another run for 10 laps, before the next caution periods started popping up in recent times. So we have had long runs. It's just been not the type of race where we have had the trend say we'll get enough of a run to take green flag pit stops, unfortunately.
Yep, and that way, all the intention of having a proper 7-stop race with everything going clean has just been thrown out of the window. So this just means that drivers who can think on their foot are going to be the ones who profit the most out of this one. Because remember, the number of tires that they have, the number of sets that they have is virtually still the same. It's all very limited. So you can't go in every single lap and keep on changing tires, because 2 reasons: A, limited sets, B, you end up losing time. So you've got to have quick minds. Apart from having a quick car and being very daring on the racetrack, you've just got to be thinking on your feet.
Rough estimate total on caution flags, 9 now. Remember, the quick yellow, there was that stretch as well where there were 3 straight caution flag periods over the span, as mentioned, of 11 laps. It's Weger, Brock, Mayer, still your top 3, by the way. Bennett, Valverde, Thompson, Geisler, Broski, Snyder, Henderson, your top 10. Your championship competitors, again, Valverde right where he needs to be. Banfield needs to win this race and have Valverde not finish in the top 5 to take away the title. He's in 14th position for this restart.
He's in the, like you said, in that position. But meanwhile, Valverde is just barely in the top 5. He's got Henry Bennett just ahead of him, so it might be a very interesting restart with that. Of course, Kurt Krum and Andreas Robinson still away. Pace car pulls off in the hand of Alexander Weger once again, who is going to be holding the field a little bit longer this time around, it would appear. Now he's on the green flag pedal, and now this time the field not quite caught sleeping quite as much.
There was a bit of a checkup, Henry Bennett on back, but no contact this time, thank goodness, as we're off and away into turns 1 and 2. Single file for much of the group, but some of the Grizzly TFR Pro drivers ended up taking it too wide with that checkup effect we talked about Bobrovsky on back is now scrapping hard.
So you see down in the turn number 3, that is, I believe, Carlo Martzolf we're looking at right now, coming right up across the nose of Uldis Puteklis, who's trying to fight his way back to the order. Puteklis dives to the inside now. Might try to see if he can pounce on Isaac Schneider here as well of a turn number 2.
What a night, though, you have to say, for the Hansen Brothers machines. One of them, as you've seen, with a bit of left side damage on that back panel. Back single file, though, for those respective drivers. From Teklis, though, remember, had to claw his way back from the end of the longest line after an unsafe pit exit under the caution flag after he had won the race off the pit road. Back up to P12. Now some of the bombshell cars looking to scrap and hold off Henry Bennett here.
The scrapping out in the back in the midfield. This is the dangerous part of the field right here. With so many cars surrounding you, left, right, center, behind. How can you keep it clean? That's the key question. Meanwhile, you've got to keep on saving fuel. You've got to keep on working on strategy. The final race of the season, remember, the stakes are high. One mistake and you lose so many positions in the championship. These guys, thankfully, doing a great job here.
Bennett, though, is already back up to P3 and looking to scrap with Ryan Mayer. The tough part is Ryan Mayer is not letting him get the top line. He's forcing Bennett now back to the bottom line to try and carry momentum on the bottom of the track. It's quicker down the straights. And now the caution is out. Is Owen Sörnqvist once again in the 13. We're back on our yellow. Mean we'll have a restart like we had halfway again.
And this was all on his own, just lost it on the apron, tagged by the smallest of margins, slid off the track and hit the outside wall. And I want to mention, as we're sliding up, David Baker had what we like to call a Code Brown moment. Watch that red car just behind Sörnqvist here, slides the track, and look at how close that is.
That could have been significant, and for Sörnqvist, that may be night done. That might be suspension damage there, to say the very least. Here's an hour look, and it's just been an easy thing to do. Flip the apron, try and arc it down. You don't see that line specifically from the cockpit, especially with the aero screen, and boom, you get demolished. That's the third caution we've seen from that type of incident today, Sunil, for reference sake.
That's a one-stop solution to killing off your tires and your race in one bit. Snap your finger, it's gone.
I mean, as a driver, you don't want to do that, obviously, though, but it's a mistake you, as a driver, need to learn from. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Take you side by side. We get back on our way. We'll be at the halfway part of the race to go back racing. You're watching the California 500 for the Major Series European Pro Split on RaceBot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Fasten your seatbelts. It's been an interesting one so far.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. For the race lead in the final corner at Homestead.
Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Aloma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett low. 4 wide at the stripe. For all his win here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out? Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron, drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
Back live with RaceBot TV, the iRacing Esports Network, for more coverage of the Major Series European Pro Split. Justin Prince alongside Nolan Ripple, Samuel Aurora, Hugo Wees in the director's seat for what's expected to be a crazy stretch once more. 126 laps to go this time by, halfway the next time by for these competitors. So far, 10 caution flags in this race. And for Wager, he's looking to hold on to the lead a little bit more longer. Henry Bennett, who has been the dominant car of the race, is up to P3. His teammate for the event today, Riley Thompson, P6. Your other race leaders today have had attrition here and there today. Wager trying to warm up the tires this time before the start. That catches everybody and then some sleeping. What a sneaky move by Alexander Wager.
Talk about pulling the Lewis Hamilton at Interlagos in 2019. I mean, my goodness me, getting the massive jump on the field. I guess that's one way of getting around of Ryan Mayer, also with the massive jump on the field. Meanwhile, behind, take a look at this battle for, I believe, the fourth. Oh, caution's out. Disregard that. Battle is over for now. And it is one car on the apron. Ray Partridge, I believe, caught him in the middle of this one. It was a big checkup. And in fact, it was a lot of cars that got sideways and all of them saved it.
Another car clips the apron. It's Colin Martzoff from Hanson Brothers once again this time. Let's take a look.
Oh, man. And the bad thing is he catches a couple of cars out in that whole drama as well, so it's not him alone.
I'd like to remind you that timing is available at racebot.tv/timing2, where you can see speeds drop off with hits such as this. Significant damage for a couple different drivers, and the blue cone also involved, unfortunately, for this caution flag. A little bit of tension, by the way, from that start procedure, Nolan, because again, you normally don't see that type of decision or that type of maneuver where you're warming up the tires and then bam, you're on the gas.
Now, here's the thing. While it's technically not against the rules in both the Major Series regulations and the iRacing Code of Conduct, as far as I know of, it's not in the rules that you're not allowed to do that. It's very, very cheeky, though, I think it's safe to say. I mean, that's definitely not something you see very often. It's not something anybody expects you to do. Everybody, you're expected to usually keep a car straight when you're coming to a restart. So it was very cheeky, and it almost played out for him well.
Almost. But Favrotsky, Putekos, Niskanen, Colin Martzoff, Ray Partridge, Jack Showman, your drivers taking this time to pit, by the way. It's caution. But again, the thought process has to be, eventually we're going to get a long run. You'd have to think there'd be green flag pit stops at one point. You'd have to say, right?
We can certainly hope for the same, but the way it's going right now, it certainly seems like We're not going to have that for a very, very long time, because if you cast your mind back to Indianapolis as well, we had a very similar thing. And it was just about as stop-start as the final sector of the Yas Marina circuit, which, thank goodness, we don't have on the iRacing service. It's just turning out to be that way. And until the very end, remember, even that race was compromised by caution towards the very end. I certainly hope we don't have that sort of a finish, but we are heading in that very track.
Possibly. By the way, for Alexander Weger, we've talked about him in this championship, in this series, for plenty of different races. He's someone, though, in 2020 alone has done well in various different series, especially the open wheel series is the key thing. He runs a lot of IndyCar type of series outside of the major series and has won a couple championships, specifically in Swedish leagues on ovals in this IndyCar chassis. So it's not like it should be a surprise to see him up at the front here, Nolan, because he can be quick at these types of tracks. He was somewhat sporty back at the Brickyard in the spring.
Oh, absolutely he was. He was definitely among the fastest drivers there, so not really the biggest surprise to see him now running up here with the front runners as well, lights are out on the pace car this time by, so we are going to be going green. About 4 laps now past the halfway point, 125 laps look to be complete. It's going to be 122 to go. Don't take the green.
Again, we're now up to 11 cautions on the race. See if everyone's got everything out of their system. The drivers who have pit, there is multiple different strategies now. Dawson Brock, Ola Sorgqvist, Andreas Robertson pit the last caution flag. Robertson did get his lap back. He's in 16th position with that caution flag. Then behind that, it is Niskanen, Colin Martzoff, Jacques Shaw, Judas Buteklis, Ray Partridge, Andy Banfield, Trevor Vrobowski, Marcus Romner, David H. Baker, Tom Drailing, and Darwin Mites, who are all drivers who pit under this caution. Everybody else, 28th on back, is pinned the lap down. Drivers in that grouping include Josh Wolf, Eric Mickey, Kirk Crum, Richie Hearn, Renee Aurora still on track, 2 DNFs, Sean Brown and John Lane. No weaving this time for your race leader. Will he get an air good launch? Yes. Best launch yet, just about. Off and away, Ryan Merrick keeping up. Henry Bennett, his best launch from P3 this run so far.
And Weger has just run away Bennett as well. They've all just created gaps amongst each other. The gaps are, of course, quite significant, so they want to make sure that they're all inside the turbo. Look at this. They're all spread out, but it's not so much the case at the top there, because Ryan Mayer wants a piece of that lead. He's not gotten that since the very beginning, but he wants it right now. It's a case of pride right here. He's going almost on the apron. That was a bit naughty, mind you.
Yeah, but he's got the older tires in just there. Lets Bennett by. Now Bennett needs to get by for the race lead again if he wants. Weigert trying to hug the bottom. Bennett crosses up. Squeeze to the white line. Move Bennett to the preferred line. Not much space, though, to get underneath and move Bennett back to the race lead. That was coming in quick with the fresher tires.
Can Weger get him back, though, on the front straightaway? Bennett's now painted the line again. Weger goes high, really pinched him down to the white line. Here comes Ryan Mayer trying to make it 3 on the outside line, down to the turn number 1.
Good scrap amongst these cars, and the older tires are handling pretty well. About 5+ laps difference, green flag laps for these respective tire stints. That may be something to keep an eye on at about 5 to 10 laps now if we keep turning laps. Thomas Geisler, though, is joining the fun. He's now up to P3 and net P2 for the drivers who are on their stint. Near 3 wide for the race lead into turn 1.
So Thomas Geisler definitely doing a fantastic job right now trying to keep this thing steady. Big bobble for Alexander Weigert off of turn 2, looking almost 4 wide for the race lead down into turn number 3. Riley Thompson gets squeezed out, as does Thomas Geisler. Thompson back to the inside now, trying to go on the inside. He's going to pick up the 3rd position now on the inside of Thomas Geisler. Now it's Thompson to try to go for the race lead. We are going to go 3 wide down to the run to turn number 1. Who's going to win out in the first corner? Alexander Weigert in the middle. Henry Bennett still has the power on the bottom.
And Weigert tried to dive to the corner, nearly got into Bennett there. He thought about going to the apron. You can't do that, of course, today. Still 3 wide as Riley Thompson still wants to try and show what he can do. It's 2 of the top 3 cars running for TDR today. Now Bennett looks to power slide his way still towards the front point once more and try and break away. Big draft though from Weigert from the side. Thompson backs it up. Here comes Travis Henderson. Where did he come from to join the fight for the first time today?
Can he be the dark horse? Can he pull out something special from the back? What if you are Bennett? You know you've got the faster car. You know you've got the most sustained run all day through. He's using the outside line to his advantage from the very beginning. He knows he's got that advantage, but Weigert is not letting him go so easily. He's putting a roadblock, he's putting a hurdle in that. He does not give a tinker's toot about Bennett's race. He wants to win and he's fighting hard for that.
There's still 150 to go this time by. Still, this is important track position. Weigert says he enjoyed the fun as Bennett now looks to try and run away and have fun at the point. Him and Thompson back 1-2. Travis Henderson not able to take away P3 quite yet, as Geisler still falls within the draft. But Verde got Pataska Mondiera cars still within this pack.
Bennett moved up and blocked Riley Thompson's run at the outside line, forced it to back off. So Alexander Weigert now on the bottom side, but he's going to lose out to Riley Thompson, who's pulling the top line. The dirty air is starting to come into play on the bottom side for any driver that's trying to take the bottom away from the guys up on the top. So it's a big gaggle of cars here, all fanning out, all trying to use different lines across the racetrack. Look at the gaggle of machines off of turn number 4.
Some good scrapping from several different positions. As we've seen, as the run goes on, it gets harder and harder to pass. This is the best opportunity for some of the drivers to scrap in some of these runs. Bennett, though, good run off the corner, back single file. Thompson finally clear by a decent margin for second. Now wants the race lead. This is similar to what we've seen before, possibly starting to form up. The problem is, Weigert is not backing down. He tries to take the pounce, doesn't work. Thompson now heads to the lead at the stripe.
Are we going to go 3 wide here heading towards turn 1? It's a real possibility. Weigert is looking for something down the inside line, but Bennett has it blocked off. Remember, the apron cannot be used on iRacing unlike in the real world, so the drivers have to vary off that. And here comes an attack then. Riley Thompson goes down the inside. Bennett is being pushed out to the outside line, and we have a new leader.
And it's almost looking like the exact same thing starting to form up. The problem is Weigert is not looking like he's going to let them go back and forth for the draft. Because before, they had a 3/10 of a second cushion knowing to go back and forth and try and break the draft. They were breaking it about half a tenth to a tenth a lap. This time, though, Weigert's getting good runs to take away that switch effect into turn 1, and that is not allowing him to break away from the pack now.
Well, you say that, but he just lost out to another driver, Thomas Geisler, down the back straightaway. Had a terrible run off of turn 2. That's lost him a little bit of time here. He has got to get on the inside of Riley Thompson, and in a hurry if he wants to make sure that strategy can't come into play again.
Still trying to pounce, though, for P2 once more. That time, I believe he might have grazed the apron, forced to check up a little bit. Geisler back single file now in this grouping. Bennett trying to break the toe a touch. Big run, though, for Weigert, looking to rip away the race lead as he can't get there. He's forced to check up hard on the bottom side, looking like the tires are gone for Weigert's car.
And that sustained push is slowly coming towards an end. The tidal wave is respiting. He is falling back. Perhaps it's a bit of a low tide for him right now. What can he make of this situation then? The champions always bounce back in a low situation. They always bounce back like tigers, essentially. He's in a tough spot. Can he make the best of it?
So wait and see. Guys, we're now scored P3, by the way, and this should be surprised to see the cars start to fall off because Ryan Mayer, who was up there, he's already dropped back to 14th spot. Wegert's tires falling back down to where they were before, and he gets contact. Guys were pushed up the track and hit the tire of Wegert. Wegert now losing spots. That shuffles everyone else back. They were near 3 wide in some cases.
That could have been disaster for both drivers there. So very good on Alexander Wegert to make sure that that he somehow managed to save that car. Doesn't look like he's got a terrible amount of damage on the machine, if any. So he should be good to continue here. But that is definitely splitting this battle up big time.
By the way, knock knock. Guess who's in the top 10 in all of this? Ross Banfield has made his way back up in this lead pack, by the way. He's at the tail end of it. All while Thompson holds off P2. Here's a look now from Banfield as the tempers are flaring up in front of them. Some of the Hansen Brothers racing cars scrapping with the satellite racing cars, scrapping with the kinetic cars, scrapping with the bombshell cars, scrapping with the other independents. In other words, it's a whole gaggle of fun, and I use fun lightly.
Well, who knows, it could be a lot of fun coming into this one as well. But the way these drivers are fighting out, it's turning out to be quite a spectacle under the nights here in California. The state where essentially dreams are made for so many people. Which one of them are going to take home the trophy, the virtual one at least, and have their dreams made?
Under full darkness, remember, we started at 4 p.m. in sim time, but with it being now near winter time, the later you go in the seasons, the more earlier it gets in terms of darkness. And by the way, it's daylight savings time today in North America. So that also is a good factor in as well. Meanwhile, Wegert dropping now to the end of the top 5 as Valverde taking away the spot on the high side. Eventually, though, you'd have to think Wegert might be forced to pit under green if he doesn't get a caution flag to equalize the strategy. This would be a net gain of at least 5 positions if he can hold on and get a caution.
Right now, I think that is what he's hoping for. For once, he's actually hoping that we can get another yellow flag. And with how hard some of the other guys are scrapping in this field, it might be a very, very real possibility here very, very soon, as a matter of fact. I mean, I know in the background, you also got guys like Mike Gott and Ross Banfield that are starting to scrap as well. Should note that Ross Banfield, he's now within the top 10. He made up.
Yeah.
He's trying to make up the 9th position right now. He's side by side with Mike Gott.
Exactly what I mentioned 5 laps ago, Nolan, is he's up to P9, just like that. They're still within range of Dallas Vitaska and company, but this is starting to strain out. And you can tell Banfield has to lift off a little bit more than some of the cars in front of him, and that may hurt him as this run progresses. See, right there, trying to shift down to 4th gear, in fact, as well.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best sight for Ross Banfield, who is right now just trying to hang on to the spots and get what he can. The guys that are right near the top are running about 32.7, 32.6s. Ross Banfield's putting in 32.8s. So he is dropping back, Shinoda as well. Up front here, though, Yao Valverde just made a pass around Alexander Wegert. That was for the 4th position, taking it away from him around the outside.
Well, if anything, that's getting the position back because they've been scrapping back and forth a little bit. Wegert, you have to give him credit. He's the only person who's really made this strategy call work. Everyone else has already been shuffled at least to 13th position who has tried this call. And/or are several laps down and in turn are hoping to have any sort of luck, and we're just hoping for the wave. In other words, Wegert has a decent car. I'm curious how this all plays out, so, if they get a chance to have equalized tires here for the Scandinavian driver to have a shot here.
Who knows, perhaps a caution or two could change that thing up for Wegert. He's showing potential. He's been right there at the very top, trying to attract, trying to make his move up there, just pestering all the other top drivers. Who knows, perhaps somewhere down the line, Wegert could challenge. If it stays green and if we then have a caution at just the right time, just the perfect moment, Wegert could very well be, in the long run, fighting for the top.
Team Logic Sweden driver looking very, very quick, to say the least, today. If anything, this is the strongest performance we've seen all year. Now, you can actually put this higher than the Brickyard, in my opinion. He's struggled in some cases, in some of the other races, in some of the other car classes. But this is a car that might be up there with Henry Bennett in terms of speed if he gets a shot.
He needs to get that car on fresh tires, and once he's on even tires with the rest of the field, I don't doubt that he could really make something special with that number 14 machine. Right now, once again, he's due battling with Yal Valverde, and he's also trying to see if he can get clear so we can run down Thomas Geisler for the final podium position. Finally gets clear, and Valverde is forced to duck back in line.
How long is the question, though, with how they've been fighting and scrapping and battling. This pack now still around 7 cars. You see a bit in the backdrop as well, by the way. Some of the drivers are losing themselves some time. Alexander Weger coming in this time by. He's reached the end of his fuel mark. And that was his worst fear. Everyone else can go another 10 laps.
Now, here's the other thing, though, Justin. If he gets on fresh tires here, do you think he might be able to maybe leapfrog a couple of positions with the fresh tires?
Well, yes and no, because here's the thing. It's been talked about, if you listen back to the international broadcast for SimSpeed, that the undercut is very powerful. Because as we've seen, the fall off can be pretty hard to handle. Some drivers have had up to 7 to 8 tenths a second fall from their fastest laps of the race. However, he's going to have no drafting help when he gets back on the racetrack. None.
Yeah. And just think of it, what if we have a caution somewhere down the line, just a couple of laps later? That'll be the ultimate kick in the backside.
He's going to need to hope he's up to speed to catch the very back end of the field here to have any good shot here. He might have just got lucky. Robertson nearly turned him around for that move.
Now, Weger was just trying to make sure he got in the line. He's going to sweep underneath Andreas Robertson now. So it looks like he did actually get the drafting help after all. Managed to come back right in front of the tail end of the field. So that actually played out perfectly for Alexander Weger. Exactly what he was hoping to go. Now, though, he's got to deal with working his way through the traffic and nearly gets wiped out by Trevor Bobrovsky.
Now, this is also a major risk, too, yeah. But he got lucky. Let's put it that way. 1 second later off the pit lane, he doesn't reach this pack. And maybe at the very minimum, just sticks at the tail end of it, and if he just gets a whiff. He doesn't make that move up to the top, no, and there's a chance he doesn't keep up there.
And look at the big battle behind them. They're about to go 3 wide. Behind them with Kirk Crum, Andreas Robertson, and Marcus Niskanen, and they just made some big contact as well, actually, in that battle further back as well. Andreas Robertson got really loose and just barely snapped the car back under control in turn 4. It was two tires contact. And now, this is such a strong fight right here as all the drivers are just trying to make sure they can do whatever they can. Meanwhile, Alex Weger, he's gotten clear Dawson Brock. He's going to see if he can run down Brian Barney.
You can see on the left side of your screen, by the way, Henry Bennett, he's gone. 2.4 seconds, your race lead. He is faster than anyone else by 2 to 3 tenths a lap. The times being put up, meanwhile, for comparison's sake by Weger, 32.7s with the traffic at the moment. The leader's still turning 32.6s. Have to see if what Weger can do now with some clean space. The thing is, it's going to need to be a quick set of lap times to get up to the next drafting pack. That time by, in fact, 32.4. Quickest on the track.
So this might work out here, but he really does have to put in those lap times to make sure he gets every single lap perfectly. He's got to make sure that he makes absolutely no mistakes. He cannot afford them right now. He's going to sweep by underneath Brian Barney now and see if he can maybe catch the back end of Colin Martsolf to get some more traffic.
Henry Bennett is in. Henry Bennett is in. Your race leader has ducked into the pit lane. So, pit window is open for the drivers who have not pitted under some of the previous caution flags. Some of the air cars can be extended and are up to 16 laps. So 47 laps, including caution laps, is the earliest mark now. Keep that in mind. This may become a one-stopper indoor fuel mileage race from this point.
and how the drivers are able to just coast off at the right time, lift in course at the right places. That's going to be the crucial one. Where do they cycle out then? Weggett's coming across to the main stretch. Bennett is leaving the pit lane. This is going to be close.
It'll be somewhat close at the least. Bennett, though, has been one of the quickest cars on the track, and he's gained time, if anything, with some of the space. You see there off the corner, though, Bennett still has the advantage by a decent amount and has much fresher tires now. Brian Barney will come in this time by. Pataska, Thompson, Geisler, and Hagstrom have also ducked in this time by. Valverde coming in as well.
You have Valverde down to pit road. Now the question is, will this become the money stop? I know Michael Hagstrom is down to pit road. It looks like Dallas Pataska is just fresh out of the lane. Riley Thompson's out of the lane. Thomas Geisler's already came down as well. Travis Henderson's coming down this time by. So it's about to get real busy.
Snyder also coming in right here. So right at the tail end for just about everybody else.
Whoa!
Oh, and a spin in the pit lane. That's
Oh boy.
Snyder. That is your race leader, Isaac Snyder, who spins it into the pit lane. And that is so easy to do in these cars at this track.
Just locked it up by the smallest of margins. That was all it took to send the car around. Good job on Ross Banfield, who was right behind this to avoid him as he was stopped in the pit entry.
Take a look on board and listen. Good lockup. He wasn't even out of fourth gear yet, and he still lost it.
That's such a sad mistake to make heading in the pit lane. Snyder, he wouldn't have cycled back as the leader, of course, but he was on course for a very, very decent position when he came out. But man, that just dents his chances. Literally the worst thing that could happen.
So at the moment, Henry Bennett is the last car in the lead lap. Weigert is currently 33 seconds behind as the first car one lap down. But your leader for now is Yudas Putekilis, with everyone being off cycle now with some of the caution flag periods. It's our longest run of the race by far. Him, Colin Martzoff, Jacques Shaw, Trevor Bobrovsky, Dawson Brock, Tom Drelling, Ray Partridge, Andy Banfield, David Baker, Ola Sorkvist, Robertson, Romner, Mikes. All can go up to another 15 to 16 laps before they have to come down for another pit stop.
And Pataska and Henderson are about to go at it. Henderson and Pataska just swap spots in turns 1 and 2 over at the front of the field. Remember, they are right now one lap down, but they have already pitted, so they're going to be shuffling through right back up to the head of the field as Pataska trying to run down Henderson to see if he can maybe go for the spot.
Just a few car lengths in front of some of these cars you see scrapping here, back and forth, including Red Aurora, who is still on track, mind you, 6 laps down, trying to make moves up the middle. Again, your current net race leader is Bennett by at least 1.8 seconds at the moment. Geisler is another 0.6 back.
And that's a critical gap, right? You've got to be within 1 second to get the full use of the draft. And again, Auto Club Speedway, there's only one proper back stretch where it's completely straight. Even the front stretch, in fact, slightly curved. A bit of a D, this one. And yes, NASCAR are proposing plans to make this into a short speedway of sorts at the front stretch, like a semi-Martinsville or something, but that's not going to happen right here. Right here, it's the full big layout, and even in the start stretch, yes, the draft will come into perspective, but not as much as in the back. And look at this, David Baker making moves, shuffling down to the inside, using the momentum, and that Grizzly TFR Pro car, surely much like a grizzly bear clawing up the field.
Again, on the different strategy, as we talked about here, Butek was coming in this time by.
Oh, got to the wall! Got to the wall! Front straightaway, rolling! Caution's out! Caution is out! That's trapped half the field a lap down!
And this changes everything. One stopper from here for one, but for two, mostly everybody's a lap down. This, however, may have just helped Henry Bennett, if anything. Take a look. This was a fight with one of the bombshell cars. Wow, and just got side pod contact, and then a full flip in the middle of the back, in the middle of the front stretch.
Ouch. Now, it'll be easy to say something very funny about this incident, but it is far from funny for my God. The championship finale, the way where he is in the championship, he needs more points. He's in B number 15. He wants to go up. And this sort of incident punches you in the gut, smacks you in the face.
17 cars are on the lead lap now as a result of this caution. Weger, Geisler, Valverde had just got their laps back. Everybody else will have to take a wave. There are not going to be some happy drivers in this mix, let's put it that way. There may be a chance some people are pinned here. As mentioned, Puteklis was coming that lap to Nolan.
So what is this going to do for the championship battle? Because remember, Banfield needed to win, and he didn't need Valverde to finish 5th or lower. They're both a lap down right now. No, actually, check that. Valverde's on the lead lap. Yes. Banfield's a lap down.
Oh, that is absolutely huge. And right now, there might be one driver staying out to pin him. Geisler and Valverde have stayed out to pin Ross Banfield a lap down. Everybody else has come in a pit. That may decide your championship as Puteklis, the first driver off the jacks, but not the first off the pit lane, so to speak. He's beat out by Colin Martzoff in a bombshell car.
This is absolutely huge for the championship. As we mentioned early on, the pendulum can just swing left or right or left or right in a matter of moments, and here it just has.
So, unless there's a bit of luck, Ross Banfield will likely be stuck a lap down with 82 laps to go. The top two drivers on the pylon both staying out under this caution in. I mean, do you not blame them? If you have a chance to clinch it up, right there, for safe measure, that does it right there.
So it does look like there are a few cars that are actually in front of the leaders, and Ross Banfield, I believe, might be among them. So I have to see what's going to happen here when the lights go on the pace car, if he'll get waved around. If he does, if he has to get waved around. If he doesn't get waved around here, his championship hopes are over.
Yeah.
We're gonna wait to see here, and
I believe he is. Yeah. Yes, he is. He is.
Oh my goodness! So a heart-stopping moment for Ross Banfield, who is just barely gonna get waved around. His championship is still alive.
Bit of a jump of the gun. Let's put it that way. Raleigh, Thompson, Henderson, Pataska, Banfield, Bayer, Hagstrom, Niskin, and Snyder Barney with a bit of luck to get their lap back. But Brian Barney will be the last of those drivers. It'll be still Mickey Wolf Hurl, one lap down. But it's Thomas Geisler in the lead for the first time tonight. Now we get to see how he will do in clean space. He has Valverde with him as well on the same cycle.
What a turn of events here. I mean, that caution, I don't think could have come out at a worse time for some drivers like Eric Mickey and Joshua Wolf.
And there may be another caution needed for some of these cars to make it on the one stop too, who just had to take the wave. Some of them really had to pit earlier on in that window. And the main thing I'm thinking about here, Nolan, at the same time is, I'm thinking especially back to the Michigan race for that IndyCar Challengers talked about back in the spring. 40 laps was the very limit for most of the field in that race. And that was with the pros, mind you. Green flag is out. We're back underway. Open up your fuel strategy, guys. We have 80 laps to go.
Oh, trouble! Front straightaway.
And a caution is out. Snyder, Mayer, several others stopping. Another Hanson Brothers car involved in trouble. And that just took the fuel equation out of it for some of the waves.
So this was all with Kirk Crum here, and I have no idea what happened, but when the rest of the field went, Kirk Crum didn't go either. I am so confused as to what happened. Look at this. This is what started off as what in the world happened there?
But perhaps just the cars having a bit of a concertina effect, someone slowing down, someone going a bit too quickly, that confusion, because of course most of them will not be on the voice chat with each other. And so there are just slight signs that you have to interpret with the other person. Are they going? Are they not? Are they here? Are they not? Yep, that's what happened. The number 10 just thought that it was the right time, and the 7 was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Want to see if we can get a look on board with Kirk Crum if we can and take a listen in, because I don't know if he really even went up on the revs.
He didn't. That's the thing. It sounded like he was only half on the throttle the entire time.
Take a listen. Take a listen. He's out of the race for that, by the way. He has been in trouble in this race in the past. So add another DNF to the list at the very minimum from that. And now that may have just taken it from a fuel strategy race to just simply a one-stopper. Do you think that was a fuel map issue? You'd have to think about too. There are fuel maps for these cars, Nolan.
I honestly would not be able to tell you. I mean, that is just so strange. It's got one of the strangest incidents that I have seen in a very, very long time. But that's just taking quite a few cars out of the race. Kirk Crum, obviously, is out of the race. It looks like Mike Gaunt's going to be out of it. Ollie Swordfist is still in the pits as well. I think Ryan Mayer got a piece of that. Richie Hearn is definitely going to be extremely damaged from that as well.
You know, some of these drivers have just not had some luck today. Let's put it that way. But 77 to go this time by. Light still on top of the pace car. Mind you, with all this craziness, Jacques Show is up to 5th again. Tom Drelling's up to 7th. Ray Partridge is up to 8th. And the gamble that they took all has likely paid off as a result, and they still have some of these cars up to 3 tire sets to spare at minimum.
This can still roll the dice in terms of strategy. We are reaching the very end of this race, remember. If they do go green flag running, it could end up rather quickly, and then those strategic elements could be eliminated virtually. But what? How many stops do we have here? 2, 3 more, perhaps?
I mean, I'm thinking 1, based on the tire stints, remember, because they went up to 40, some of those drivers. There's a chance it's a one-stopper on the gas, but it's how much do you want to do on the tires, because the lighter the car is towards the end here, the faster it goes, remember. So if you have a tire set, we may see someone gamble on it. Samil?
I mean, it'll be on the very edge in terms of tire stint, because then it does keep on wearing off. Yes, of course, it's denied the temperatures are cooler, the wear off will be a bit less, but the way they're racing, the way they're going hard, I think it'll just be borderline. So towards the end, there could be a big drop-off, and when you're fighting for position towards the very end, you do want to have that strategic advantage. You do want to have that upper hand in that case. So, I guess I'm not very sure, to be honest.
76 to go when we get back underway. Geisler, Valverde, Puteklis, Martzov, Show, Vavroski, Drilling, Partridge, Baker, Banfield, Andy Banfield specifically, your top 10. Ross Banfield among the drivers who were just able to pit that past caution flag. As a result of their wave around, will have some of the freshest tires in the field, although only about 1 lap difference on green flag laps. 21st, make it 20th on back for those drivers who had to take the wave. Also of note, Bennett is back to 14th after his pit stops. Pace car is off. Geisler back in control of the field in the 239, the 381, and the 666. Fall on behind for the position. We're back underway.
Back underway, and this time it's Jacques Show that has a bad launch, so it looks like 4th on up are definitely through, and Trevor Vavroski trying to have a go around Jacques Show now into turn number 1. Meanwhile, the other guys behind him, they're well, clean, and green. My goodness me, though, what a bad start for the 34.
There are some drivers not happy on the radio. There was a massive, massive check apparently around 7th on back. Bobrovsky and Show the first battle side by side, but onwards back, drivers like Wager, Meintz, several others lost several positions after they came to a near stop off the launch.
And that would be as a result of the Jacques Show, who almost had a situation Oh, trouble! No!
Oh.
No! Trouble in front of the leaders! Eric Mickey was just dumped out of 27th position. He's out of the race after contact with Thomas Geisler.
It was the one-lap car mixed in with your race leaders, and he was trying to fight again for his lap back. Caution is out. We've seen how hard he fought with Bennett. We've seen how hard he fought with some of the others. This was his one play to get a lap back. And that time, arcs it right into the side pod of the leader. Around he goes, and into the fence he goes to bring us back under yellow.
And watch as he's going to tumble down the track and get clobbered by Riley Thompson and Joshua Wolf. The two cars. So look at who was that completely in the infield, having to go a whole new... That was Ross Banfield, actually, that had to go a whole new level of evasive. Let's take a look from the 777 as well, just after this aero camera, if we can, because that was a new level of evasive driving right there.
Yeah, you'll see right there. Arcs it right down. Actually does make contact with the kinetic racing machine, and then the 777... Wow. Has to duck down to the grass. Nearly hits him in the grass, too.
Wow, that is a lucky dodge. He'll just be looking up. I mean, when the car was right there, he'll just have his eyeballs looking upwards. This should be a very revealing replay. He's flipping like a coin right here, and Banfield, wow, does a good job to avoid him. Man.
Talk about cheating death.
Exactly. And that's the very reason why the aero screen is here, just to protect incidents like that. But thank goodness he was far off. Even virtually, that would have been a scary one.
And Valverde has to come down and pit because of that contact. He is now in the lane with Bobrovsky trailing Bataska and Romner. And that is to be expected with that huge side pod contact with the 381.
So that now means that Ross Banfield, who was on the lead lap, is in the 19th position. So Banfield is now ahead of Valverde. If he can get a good launch, Banfield, and get cleared to get his way up to the front, like we saw him do on the last long green flag run, he can still have a good run at this championship here.
He needs to gain 16 positions, though, or so. That's the tough part. Again, needs to win, essentially, to have the math go his way on points.
Would that still be the case, though, if, say, Valverde were to encounter some other major incident and finish near the tail of the field? Would that still be the case?
You would have to think not. Essentially with the math, right?
Yeah.
But the more positions you're up the pylon, the more safer it is. You have to think as a driver. You don't want to say, I'll be fine with 16, when you know that this math for this position is going to have to be how it works, right?
Absolutely. Right now, it looks like there's just about 7 spots separating Valverde and Banfield right now. So, all of a sudden, like you said, if there was anything to come about attrition-wise for you Valverde's way, it would blow this title wide open. And, well, look what's happening here.
Ah, come on, Nolan. No commentator's curse.
That wouldn't be my first time.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be, well, just about everybody's 150th time. There's been at least 2,000 curses, I have to say, this year. Welcome to 2020, everybody. One to go this time.
Couple dozen this season.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's putting it lightly, but with the one to go signal, I want to touch back upon that point you mentioned with the configuration coming up after the 2021 race here. That was huge news because, of course, there is a push for fans, for NASCAR specifically, for more short tracks. It was a shocking news wave to hear that a rumored reconfiguration turned into an Auto Club short track with high banking, using the front stretch, front banking still, but then high banks in the corners, and the pit lane essentially currently now as the backstretch. Of course, just only about a year and a half left overall then, if anything, for this configuration in real life here for Auto Club.
It's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, Nolan.
Well, I think it's safe to say that, you know, iRacing will. I would not be surprised if we saw iRacing scanned in that short track version of Auto Club because, you know, a lot of people like short track. So I think that's safe to say. I guess the question is, what's going to happen to this 2.0 mile layout that's on the surface? I would hope that it would stick around as a legacy track because it does still ride some thrilling races like we are seeing here.
Got to think it. Remember, iRacing was actually used in part to help design that track and see if it'd be feasible. Green flag is out meanwhile with this 2-mile circuit. As they're off and away, Thomas Geisler with an air good launch. Colin Martzoff looking to hold off Proteclus for P2. Jock Show, David Baker, your top 5 still. Your championship contenders still in the teens.
Up front, Proteclus is getting around Colin Martzoff with the second position, and it is so close. Both drivers nearly making contact several times down the back straightaway. Proteclus is forced to back off. Martzoff carrying the momentum on the high side. He's going to try to have a run now. Thomas Geisler for the lead as to come to the front.
Colin Martzoff has felt comfortable with speed on the short run. We've seen him take some big charges on runs. We've seen in one case it did lead to contact. Let's see if he can keep the runs clean here down the back straightaway. Good run as Geisler doesn't have any draft as Proteclus thought about taking it 3. Another squeeze. That is again close between the battle for second. Colin Martzoff again trying to pinch.
And these guys are just getting over the edge at this stage. Once again going 3 wide at the front stretch. This is symbolic of the racing that we've had here in the Major Series. We've seen this all year round, and for one last time they are putting it on show once again. And Thomas Geisler is putting his foot flat on the gas. But then again, Colin Martzoff going to the inside line. Proteclus as well now. This is fun. Proteclus now, basically, Proteclus, my apologies, was the one to go to the inside line.
Should be surprised to see Proteclus back up at the front. The Kinetic Racing machines have been fairly quick on short runs. Guess who's coming in quick? 3 wide, Henry Bennett. Not even a blink of an eye. He is the quickest car on the track. 32 flat, half a second quicker than the leader, and he's already nearly getting squeezed by Jock Show for P4.
He's already made up a 6th place spot this time round. He's trying to go for, well, he's in the 5th position now. So he's made up 2 in 1 lap. Jacques Show trying to have a go at Thomas Geisler here, but what can Henry Bennett have to say about it? Bennett's going to go to the outside, a massive head of steam on the 007 machine. He's trying to go for a race win, quite obviously here today. Still side by side for the lead. Martzoff and Proteclus still going at it in turns 1 and 2.
Watch Henry Bennett, though, on that top line. He's been lightning quick when he's built up a run. Has a chance to build up one here. Thomas Geisler boxed in, not able to take a run anywhere for him. Bennett, though, looking to get towards P4 off the corner and does. Proteclus still hugging the bottom. Bennett now trying to line it up from behind. Big boost of speed down the front stretch of the caution is out. At the end of the front stretch for Vrosky, Brock, Barney.
Valverde's out of the race! He's out of the race!
Valverde had not used his fast repair. The last caution flag, he's going to have to use one now. This is huge.
Oh boy. Oh boy. The first question that comes to mind, where is Ross Banfield then? This is for the championship, folks. It's all on the line here. There's no another chance. And Valverde just get caught up in all that mess on the top line.
His crew chief Liam Quinn confirming they did not use the fast repair on the last caution when they checked with the side pod. That will have to be it there and may end up putting him now in a nervous situation. He is still able to wheel it around though. That's the bright spot, but it's going to be tight to stay on even the lead lap after this.
Meanwhile, Ross Banfield he actually managed to dice his way through that mess and got clear. He's up to 12th now. So look at the massive pileup. That is the big one right there at its finest. And Valverde cartwheeling side over side and over and down the front straightaway, flying at least 400 feet down the front straightaway and coming the rest of the infield, the grass. Thankfully didn't have to tow it because that would definitely put the nail in the coffin. But all of a sudden, the pendulum swings into the favor of the unorthodox motorsports driver, Ross Banfield. Lucky number 7 it would appear for the number 777.
He was up in 12th position, just up the road from that, and fighting with Raleigh Thompson. That could have been much worse, but for Valverde, he is still trying to wobble around. Split pit stop calls here, though. Geisler and Show electing to come down this time for another set. And this is where the extra tire sets to bank on might come into play for some of these teams. This may put them now with an extra 2 sets available for the rest of the race to think about.
At this point in time, I would honestly love to see what the points are looking like when it comes down to this, because, I mean, how in the world does this shape up to what has to happen here? Because at this point in time, Ross Banfield's looking set to storm for the championship here.
That is unbelievable. By the way, should note that Mike Gott, who was in this race, is now done officially, 32nd. Also, drivers with significant repairs still off track. Richie Hearn, Eric Mickey, Renee Aurora again having to come down for a 19th pit stop. Ryan Barney with significant damage repairs from that. Valverde just now made to the pit lane. He used that one fast repair. Now, for Colin Martzoff, can he pull off an upset here? Because he has been quick now that he's up at the front. He had speed earlier. Nolan?
This is going to be really, really entertaining because Colin Martzoff, like I said, in the race lead, he clearly has the speed, but he has got 2 drivers, Uldis Puteklis and Henry Bennett behind him, who have been on an absolute tear. You saw how fast Bennett was being in the last round. Bennett wants to go for one final win in the 2020 campaign here in the Pacific Major Series and the European region. This is going to be one heck of a restart. I have a feeling we are in for a barnstormer of a finish today.
Valverde did use the fast repair, but no tires taken under this caution flag. 4 seconds of service. He'll be starting 25th as a result of that flight up to the sky. But it's Martzoff, Puteklis, Henry Bennett. Hello again. Starting in P3. With Baker, Partridge, Mikes, Henderson, Wegert, Snyder, and Pataska. Your top 10. And Ross Banfield in 13th position. 25 cars are still in the lead lap after what's been a topsy-turvy race. Double-digit caution flags. Here's a look from Banfield, who's right now needing a couple more positions and to think about the big picture with Valverde looking to try and charge back from behind him.
The gap between Valverde and Banfield, 113 points coming into this round. Valverde, even with the best of cars, you can't imagine him getting back up so quickly because it's the Auto Club Speedway. Passing here is not easy. It takes a long, long time of momentum. And yes, you'll be the first person to say there's a long way to go. But man, this should be a fun one. Under
Green
the bright
flag
lights.
is out. Back underway. No major checkups. One car went off in the pit lane and Vrosky straight off the gun. Everybody else, for the most part, off and away cleanly.
So everybody off and away clean. So a bit of a hair-raising moment there, but so far we are looking good to go. So now the question is...
Oh! Look at this! Henry Bennett not taking any chances, throws the quick punch, makes the lead stick in his favor. Henry Bennett back up to the point with 61 to go.
He just ripped past. Where did he get that jump of speed, Bennett? But that jump of speed is gone because the 2 other competitors right here, you want a piece of that action. Wow, but that was some sucker punch. A reverse kick to the jaw, basically, you could say. And what a drum that was. What a run from Bennett. But now he has to defend.
I mean, is it a shock we've seen that from Henry Bennett, though? I mean, there's a reason he's one of the best open-wheel drivers on the service and was, by the way, your iRacing IndyCar Series champion several times over across the service, including last season in 2020 Season 3 on the iRacing service. Either way, Martsov is still trying to give him a run for his money while Puteklis trying to find a way to join the fight once more. All while David Baker is looking to say hello.
Still 3 wide for the race lead into turn number 4. Bennett gets clear off corner exit, but Martsov is going to be there on corner entry. Puteklis still trying to find a way through. Nobody is giving an inch anymore. Everybody's trying to go for the same piece of real estate. Puteklis trying to arc it in wide, diamond up the corner, maybe trying to get the high line. He's going to have to run around on the outside line. Drag racing once again, down the back straightaway, 3 wide, Bennett on the inside line. Puteklis with the most speed on the top side, squeezing down low, but it looks like Bennett will be able to hang on for now.
Of note, Thompson has had to serve a penalty under green. Barney has had to serve a penalty. Snyder now in the pit lane after contact with the wall, as well as Joshua Wolf. They still scrap though. Bennett hugging the bottom line. Remember, on the long run, he has been 0.3 of a second quicker than the rest of the field. The short run pace, though, has been where everyone else has looked to pounce. Martsov looking to take advantage of that, while Puteklis can't take a 3 quite yet. Baker and Partridge are now there.
It's an absolute hornet's nest right here for the race lead as Colin Martsov trying once again for the outside line. He is not wanting to hang back anymore. Nobody's wanting to play the Wayne game. Everybody's just trying to go through at once, and we still might even have, one more pit stop left in us if we get ourselves another yellow within the next 25-30 laps or so.
We are still outside the window to make it on fuel. As up the track goes Bennett, and here comes the long run pace. Kicking back in for the 007. Still going to be difficult to break the toe, but Bennett has been quicker in the corners than anybody else all night long. The only driver really who's been able to stick it running around the bottom spot on the track. Once again, keep in mind that double-digit positions may be needed for some of these drivers for the championship points. Banfield is in 14th. Right now, at the moment, Valverde is in 20th. Again, Banfield needs to be double-digit points if he isn't the winner to be able to win the championship. So in other words, he needs, well, a lot of luck with what happens up here.
And if Yao Valverde finishes 23rd, more clarification from his crew chief now, Ross Banfield will need to finish 5th place or higher. Right now, Banfield is running in 14th, so he's actually lost 2 spots since the restart. Valverde has grown to 20th place. So that gap is actually shrinking between the two of them. This might not go Banfield's way. He has got to make his way up through the order and quick. Meanwhile, Martsov trying again for the race lead around Henry Bennett.
Not going to stick once again, and it's just everything we've seen. Once we get to around this mark where Bennett's tires come into play, it's difficult to try and beat him. And once he really gets the long run cooking, he usually launches off. However, there are alt strategies at play. Ross is among those drivers on the alt. Hagstrom derailing both the Banfields. Niskanen, Robertson, Romner, Valverde, Brock, Mayer, Sornqvist are all drivers who can go an extra about 10 laps or so. If this ends up leading to green flag pit stops, keep that in mind. Some of these drivers up towards the front can go another 15 to 20 at minimum. We have also already passed classified distance to be able to score points. Again, 50% distance has to be taken for the drivers to be classified for the points. Keep in mind the Team Championships is still up for grabs too with all these cars, and some of the Grizzly TFR drivers are doing what they need with Bombshell. Well, having horrific luck today. With some of them up front. One car, I believe, hit the wall. Puteklis smacked the wall from P3. He's now in trouble.
Oh boy. Does he have damage though? That's the main question. Is his steering column all right? Yeah, you will be the first person to say he's only got to turn left, mate. That's not going to be a major problem, but no. Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
That column is not all right. It is hurting.
Oh. Reverse thank goodness then.
We've seen anyone who scrapes the wall like that usually has lost time. His wheel is a little bit to the right. Of note, down some of the straights. And you can see that's keep him up for grabs. He's good in the corners. Everybody else is just trying to get around him, knowing that he's a little bit slower now from it.
Already, David Baker's gone through. Looks like Pataska's going to do the same here down the front straightaway. The race leaders are catching lap traffic. Here comes Henderson, 3 wide on the bottom to try to get a twofer in the same straightaway here.
And do you blame him for these types of moves? Needs to pick up spots, and they are right now there, and Pataska's up in the wall.
No!
Dallas Pataska again, another fast running oval, another incident. Pataska just cannot buy any sort of luck in his fastest races. That is it, probably, for him. Take a look at the replay as that was coming.
Yep, the inevitable, still 3 wide. It's beautiful at this case. It's a picture-perfect shot, one that he posted on an Instagram story. This one is not what he posted on an Instagram story. Ouch.
And remember, he used the fast repair already in this race before, already on the toe. He is now officially out of the race. And now this gets fun. Coming up to 48 to go, and oh boy, we are still not completely in the green like on the gas. At this point, do you risk taking the pit stop here and hope you get some cautions to save fuel? Or do you try and stay out and hope you get the yellow, because you can potentially make it another 15 laps here if there's another quick yellow?
It's a very complex issue right now, and at this point in time, we are really at the edge of where pit strategy would come into play. It looks like some drivers might be coming down. In fact, it will be some drivers. Bennett's among them, Martzoff, Partridge, Baker, everybody coming down to pit road except for a few key players. I see Jacques Show staying out of the lane, and I believe you got other drivers that are staying out with him. Joshua Wolf is staying out. Bobrovsky's out there, both a lap down, though.
Yeah, they're going to be pinned. Everybody's asking on the radio, Trevor Bobrovsky specifically, are you sure you don't want to pit? Everybody else came down on the lead lap.
But to his credit, you've got to roll the dice at times. You've got to do something different. You've got to put your foot between the door to just have a chance, because the door's not going to open by yourself. Does it work? Does it not? I mean, sometimes you can barge your way through the door, and the other times it can bruise you. You've at least got to do it to have it look. At least you've got to try.
I mean, you get it. He can go the furthest out of anyone else. He was among the old strategy drivers, but they don't get a yellow flag. He's going to be the one who might try and be able to try and undercut, but not fully.
Ross Banfield has just ended his championship hopes, I'm pretty sure, because he just crossed over the line before getting to the blue cone, to the point where he was in the middle groove on the racetrack.
See what happened there, and yes, he's going to have to let people go. That is a penalty. Yeah, I believe it might have been an error check. He tried to pass somebody on in the middle of the racetrack.
Talk about a lapse in concentration right there.
I wonder if we can get a look at this, because he tried to pass that car, or that team at least, on the outside line. There is still space on the inside to do this again. Or he can wait until after the blue cone. He just works around the outside and just... What are you doing?
Isn't that... I think, Justin, that's the second time in 24 hours that when both of us are commentary, we've seen drama in the pit lane. And that's not usual drama that you can explain. I think it's just forgotten. And yes, Sinatra on the YouTube chat just putting in the exact expression in mind. No. Yes, no indeed. Oh, Ross Banfield.
That puts him behind Valverde, who was up to 14th after the pit stops. Again, you can wait till the blue cone for this. Hey, with tracks like Phoenix, we've seen in the past you can go to the left of the blue cone and get no penalty. This is the second time we've seen someone do this today. Like, you can't wait until the back straightaway?
It's a long track. It's a long back straightaway. It's a wide back straightaway. I'm at a loss for words. I'm genuinely at a loss for words. I think that has just ended the championship battle right there. Unless something desperate happens to Dallas Pataska. Or, sorry, Yal Valverde.
Coming to the green flag, by the way. Show did not elect to come down, as mentioned. We'll see if this strategy pays off, or if this strategy goes boom or bust. Green flag is out, off and away. He's got several lap cars as a cushion. 1 second, the gap between him and Henry Bennett. We'll see how long that takes to already come to fruition. Some of the cars are already trying to get their lap back.
And now the racing is going to get exciting. Now look at this, they're getting ever so close. Oh, from behind. Is that Riley Thompson?
It is.
Yes.
It is Riley Thompson, yet again, the second time. Wait, has Riley Thompson got some afterburner or something in his car that he just presses a button and steamrolls past?
What about Henry Bennett? Because he just took the race lead. What about...
Should be surprised. Bennett's been quick all day. Riley Thompson now has his lap back. He needs a caution flag, and now, though, to get it to stick. Bennett, though, looking to get some clean space. Remember, though, he's worked with Thompson back and forth before. Show is already getting freight trained by all the other lap cars. Tech is boxed in. Ray Partridge is boxed in. One car pushing up. It's Joshua Wolf again, who is very, very tight in the middle of the pack.
3 by 3, a couple rows deep at this point in time. Colin Martzoff and Ray Partridge both trying to find their way through. Travis Henderson trying to go through as well. It's just a complete, oh my goodness me, this is a mess right here of lead lap cars and lap cars. Everybody trying to find their own way through. Everybody battling amongst themselves. The 3 cars around Henry Bennett are all laps down. Travis Henderson right now is leading the drivers that are on the lead lap, apart from Henry Bennett in the second position. Jacques Show's just falling back to 4th.
43 laps to go this time by. Martzoff is already up to 3rd. Thomas Geisler bringing up some sparks. Ray Partridge getting shuffled back with some contact. Partridge already shuffled to the back into the top 10 after contact down the front stretch, possibly.
Was a little bit off at turn 4. Just had somebody come across his nose.
Thomas Geisler specifically had come across his nose. Did make contact with the front wing, and it's damaged. No caution. All while still several cars having to get around. Several lap down cars holding up the lead lap cars here, looking for some luck. Again, much of the field here up at the front, our drivers pinned a lap down. Henderson in second with a caution. It's Tom Drilling in the 54. Caution is out as the Simorto sponsored car in the wall.
And none of the championship contenders caught up in this one. Dawson Brock is the driver that hit him as Drayling kind of tapped the apron. Banfield went through all clean and safe and sound. Meanwhile, Valverde, I believe, was ahead of this incident as it happened. Looked to the replay, tags the apron, and Brock just nowhere to go.
And a hard hit for Tom Drayling as well. And now we are right on that fuel number.
Whoa, one car spins under caution. That's Trevor Vavrotsky that's just lost the back end, and he's in the inside wall.
Oh dear.
That is right now. Trevor Vavrotsky checked up and slammed on the brakes so hard he crashed the car.
Justin, do you think you've seen it all in this race?
Let's take a look. Again, they were checking up for the pace car. Have to be aware where the pace car is. These drivers, I don't think realize where the pace car is. In other news, Riley Thompson wants his teammate for the race to pit. Henry Bennett is going to give him the lap. Henry Bennett coming in to give him the wave. So Riley Thompson will get on the lead lap and everybody else gets to cheer.
Oh, dear me.
Valverde's in the pits. Banfield's in the pits as well.
I mean, with it being a field mileage race, do you blame him? Chalk Show didn't pit, shockingly enough, out of this. Hagstrom also didn't pit. Colin Martzoff stayed out. At this point, you have to wonder if Jock Show has enough tire sets to get to the end here. He's had 9 pit stops. That's the only thing I can think of, that he wants a later caution to be able to take the tires and go to the end.
And I want to point something out. Ross Banfield, I believe, and Yal Valverde, they are going to be starting nose to tail on this restart.
Oh. Now,
Well, that's going to be fun.
That's going to be fun indeed. That is exactly the championship battle put into perfect. Now, this is going to be a fun situation if you're Ross Banfield. You just want to get the jump in. And he will have it in the back of the mind that, yeah, perhaps the championship is slipping away from me. But again, never say never. At this stage, you just don't want to do any hocus pocus. Just pure focus at this stage. And easier said than done, of course. But for Valverde, he's the man with all to lose. Looks good on his side, but we've seen bizarre things here today.
Again, Valverde at the very minimum has used a fast repair. Jock Show has come down.
Ah, at last.
And now we definitely have a fuel mileage race, because Jock Show is going to have an extra lap in the tank. Sornqvist also topping off on fuel this time. Everybody else staying out. This is going to be tight if it goes green. Let's put it that way. Because we're right at that window to make it to the end this lap. Again, 15 cautions is the rough estimate so far. Coming up to 38 to go for the green flag. It's Martsoff and Hagstrom who stay out this caution. Bennett able to top off on gas. He did not take tires. Henderson did take a set. He's in 4th. Geisler used a set. He's in 5th with Buteklis also using a set. Weigert, Baker, Robertson, Niskanen all came down. Robertson did not, however, use a set. He's had 10 pit stops today overall, banking one more set for his car. This is where the tire sets come in, right? The interesting thing is Martsoff and Hagstrom have in total 3 sets available per car right now. So they have tires to spare and then some. All set to get back underway, and already some of the drivers looking to take a peek to see what they can do, including Brian Barney, you've seen in 26. Pace car off. 38 to go in the California 500. The season finale for the Major Series European Pro Split. And Colin Martsoff is already gone. Hagstrom and everybody else caught sleeping by a country mile.
Martsoff is very much gone. He is going to be trying to see if he can extend that lead as much as he can. Looking back, though, to Yal Valverde, who right now, he's in the midst of a battle. There's Ross Banfield as well. Both drivers in the midst of a battle. Marcus Romer is trying to find his way at the inside of Ross Banfield. Banfield, this is the last thing he wants to see right now. He wants to make sure Romer stays behind him. He needs every spot he can get right now, and he needs to try to find some way to beat Yal Valverde up to the front and make sure still that if he wins, Valverde finishes 5th or lower.
And keep in mind, if he isn't the winner, needs a double-digit difference, mind you, in front of Valverde to have a shot here. Needs a lot of luck to go in his hand. Hagstrom has already fallen back to 4th, by the way. Geisler has been shuffled back by Buteklis to P6. In that scrap, Bennett is already looking for the race lead, up towards the front within a half a second.
So a lot of battles still all over the racetrack. Here, though, we have Ross Banfield versus Yal Valverde. The two main championship contenders going side by side through 1 and 2. Valverde pulling the outside line. Banfield trying the bottom in his Unox machine with the lime green tires. Taking a ride on board driver's eye with the 777 machine. We thought he had luck. He did have luck for a moment. But now he is going to need every scrap of luck and skill and then some, as he is still struggling right now to get by his main title rival.
This battle's been close all season. Valverde's had 7 top 5s and 2 victories in 13 starts. Ross Banfield in that same boat. 2 victories but 5 top 5s throughout the campaign. The question is, who will win the title out of them? To the inside, Ross Banfield looking to try and make a move on the kinetic racing machine. Still looking to make the scrap, but can't make the move. Up towards the front, by the way, the lead pack has closed up. It's now 4 cars. Bennett leading the charge with Henderson and Putekwas to fight back on Colin Martsoff at the head of the field for comparison's sake.
Now, this battle between Banfield and Valverde, it's all a case of pride right here for Banfield, but it's a lot more for Henry Bennett. He wants that win, he wants that trophy, and so he surges down to the inside line as if there's a big gust of wind forcing him through all up ahead. But now, what about this one? Banfield, as it stands, will not win, but it's a case of pride. He wants to get the upper hand on Valverde, if not in the championship, at least here today. And Valverde knows that. Valverde should be fine with it. But as racing drivers, sometimes your animal instincts take over. And it's just keeping control of your emotion. That's the key part for Valverde here.
Get your handy-dandy pocket calculators, let's put it that way, when it comes to this battle now, because Banfield is clear and gaining time. 3 wide for the race lead, meanwhile. Putekwas is relentless on fighting here with Bennett, and as well as Colin Martsoff. Top line doesn't stick. Here comes Geisler now gaining some momentum back at the bottom line, trying to fight with Travis Henderson too. So several cars are scrapping here. The lead pack currently stretching back as far back as 19th, separated by 4.4 seconds.
All eyes on that 007 machine trying to have a run with Colin Martsoff. Henry Bennett still ahead at the exit of 4. Martsoff getting the run down the front straightaway. 31 laps left to go in this 250 lap season finale. Travis Henderson's up to 3rd, and he's on the inside. Putekwas trying to poke around for final podium position, but he can't get the nose in.
Still scrapping really, really hard with the squeeze. Henderson able to hold off the spot. Geisler, though, with a massive boost, dives it in. Trying to take away P4 and can't get it to work quite yet. Henderson able to clear by for P3. Colin Martsoff nearly hits the back end of Henry Bennett. Forced to check up. That could have been disastrous as here comes Henderson now with the run. Nowhere to take it though. As more contact, Martsoff puts himself into the tire of Henry Bennett and up the track. Car's starting to get a little bit squirrely. Bennett was starting to bobble around to the entry when you consider the other side of the coin, but Martsoff already shuffled back to 4th from that contact. No damage.
No damage for Colin Martsoff. Just a little bit of lost time and perhaps a hurt feeling or two, but for now, Martsoff is already trying to run down Travis Henderson for 3rd place again. He's closed up to the back, and he is trying to find a way through. He's got to worry, though, about Thomas Geisler behind, trying to go for 4th.
Looking for the great run. Not able to take it anywhere. As all while, Putekwas and Bennett are trying to go back and forth still for the race lead. Geisler shuffle back to P5. Weigert is up to 6th, by the way. And that Team Logic Sweden car, big block for P3. Martsoff is relentlessly trying to show what he can do. This would be his best finish of the year if he can get it to work. Thomas Geisler takes it 3 to take away P3 into turn 3.
Well, the intent certainly is there from Thomas today. He's a different character. He's come alive, come alight here at the Auto Club Speedway.
Caution! 19th on back, Dawson Brock, Isaac Snyder involved. And we're back on our yellow, and everybody can make it on fuel from here. Open up the strategy, guys, because now it's going to get fun for the tires. Take a look.
Watch this hard hit here. Dawson Brock was just an innocent bystander. Isaac Schneider tried to dive it in from a long way back, and there's the contact. And look at that hit for Schneider, who was sent cartwheeling into 3 and 4. Dawson Brock pirouetted down to the infield. My goodness, what a race this has ended up being, and that is got to be one of the hardest hits we've seen all race.
We might see a lot of people pit here. Now the thing is, though, remember, some of these drivers may be able to just take a tiny bit of fuel, if any at all, and just rotate tires from here on out. Some of them have more sets than others, but the thing is, I don't know if there's enough time to use a lot of those sets, including Bennett and Puteklis, who elect to keep a set in hand. Henderson does as well. Geisler will use his final set. Weigert stays out. Baker stays out. Martsoff is in.
It's just going to be a 25 lap dash to the finish.
Yes, indeed, and this is going to get fun now, and then some. Now it becomes a tire strap race, because at this mark, we'll have to see if anyone elects to come in and pit if there's another caution flag after an hour, say 13-lap run, because at that point, that may be your end of the window for having to come down at all if you want enough time to make a move back. Ten cars have stayed out on the racetrack. Banfield and Valverde are among those. Banfield P8, Valverde P9. Valverde is still your championship winner if things stay the way they are.
Thing is, though, is all this aggressive battle we've seen up front here, that's where all the aggression has been. And now that you got your two-man championship contenders in the mix, do we wonder if the aggression will only continue to ramp up and maybe, just maybe, something could happen? Because there is still time for something massive to happen here in this championship fight.
Indeed, by the way, end of longest line penalty, Darwin Mites penalized for pit lane. Possible speeding there with the 72 machine. So, coming up to that 25 lap to go mark this time, 24 to go when we get back racing. Bennett has been the car to beat all night. On the long run, the short run, Puteklis, Henderson, Weigert among the drivers who have kept him in bay in the first 15 to 20 laps of each run. Baker, Andy Banfield stayed out, as well as Ray Partridge, Ross Banfield, Yal Valverde, Ryan Mayer. Geisler came into pit with Martsoff and Niskanen. Hagstrom, a 13-second stop, is in 14th. Robertson, Drailing, Romner, Thompson, Show, Sorgfist, and Mites. Your other drivers in contention for this race. Out of the race now from the caution, Dawson Brock, Isaac Snyder. Several laps down are Barney and Rene Aurora. Wolf and Vavrovsky, the only drivers who are 1 or 2 laps down in this race. Here's your biggest movers, by the way. You can see that second Banfield you see moved up, or that first Banfield 24 spots, is Andy Banfield. 24 positions, 22 spots for Geisler, 16 for Robertson, 13 for Drailing. Several drivers on the bottom page have had double-digit positions lost. Expectations here, 24 to go. Real quick, Nolan.
Insanity. Just complete and utter insanity on this restart, because you got your two-man championship contenders now into the top 10. You have about 4 or 5 drivers that are all going to be fighting aggressively for this race lead. It's about to get wild. Buckle up your seatbelts and hold on to your hats.
This time, Bennett electing to go near the bottom of the racetrack. Green flag is out. Back underway once more. Good launch for Henry Bennett as Ross Banfield has a problem. Ross Banfield has been shuffled to 13th off the start. A poor launch for the 777.
Well, the lucky number is not working in his favor. Banfield is losing positions. Oh my goodness me, this is excruciating to watch. The championship challenger languishing at the back of the field, and yes, that is symbolic. The world behind, the world ahead is going past, and he is struggling here.
And I think it's the same issue we've seen before with Eric Mecking, possibly. Fuel map issue might have just lost him the title. He is now 20th spot out of range of the lead group. Speaking of the lead group, Bennett among the drivers scrapping. Andy Banfield already shuffled by Colin Martsoff. Back to P7. Some of those drivers on the fresher tires are coming in fast.
Travis Henderson still trying to find a way around. Puteklis all over the track, trying to keep him behind. David Baker in the 33 machine is up the inside now. He's trying to pick up a podium position. Here comes Colin Martsoff looking to the outside.
Big boost of speed for Henderson. Here comes Martsoff. He's been one of the most aggressive drivers on the day today. The Hanson Brothers racing machine has been one of the surprises of the night. Can he somehow come away and steal this race? To P3 he goes on the strategy call. Going for P2 now, 3 wide for the race lead. Squeezes the bottom for Bennett. Once again, side by side for the race lead as Martsoff for the fresher tires takes it away down the front.
He has just rocketed off to the top. He's just got momentum on his side and it's not long to go, only 20 odd laps. If he keeps on doing that, he will get the win. But there are more competitors, namely Henry Bennett.
And remember, a caution flag flips out of the strategy back the other direction, possibly in this one. Some of the older tires still scrapping. Thomas Geisler also on fresh tires is boxed in for 5th. As things calm down for a moment, want to see if we can take a glance at what happened on the Banfield restart, by the way. It's the same issue. Take a listen. Exact same issue as Eric Mickey, if you recognize the sound.
That hurts. That honestly hurts to see. I mean, Banfield was looking so good to be able to have a go at the spot, but not anymore. I'm pretty sure he has just thrown it away.
And now, he is going to need a lot of luck now if he wants a shot at the title still. Valverde's 18th. The lead still. Martsoff and Bennett back and forth. Bennett still not giving up that bottom line for anything. He has to feel some pressure from behind, though, because Thomas Geisler, he's there now, too. Same strategy as Colin Martsoff. Everybody else has not been able to get up to there.
Oh! Bennett slides!
Big tank slapper as Thomas Geisler forced to check up. Might have gotten damage to the front wing. What a save! And what a bobble as Martsoff to the lead.
Oh my god, this is going to be absolutely insane. Here's Geisler getting pinched in by Protectless now. That has allowed Henry Bennett to lose out on the lead. Martsoff is in the race lead still. Henderson's trying to run him down. It's a complete madhouse back here of Delia 18 IndyCar, 700 horsepower apiece, trying to throw the way on the track. Bennett around the outside of Henderson for second.
You can hear the nervousness from no inside of things. You have to feel the tension for some of these drivers. Bennett wants second back. He's been getting looser and looser, it seems, as the race has gone on. They are turning their fastest laps of a run yet. 32 threes in the front pack. Major check for third as Henderson nearly pushed up across Geisler's front wing. Top 2 have now broken away from that.
What in the world is going on here? This is just the ultimate package of entertainment that you're getting right now. All these drivers frisky, on their tails. They want the win. They want to win it by a whisker. And now take a look at this. Banfield clawing his way back up the field. And that is Wow Valverde. He will get his nose up ahead. He will get the pass done. But shame it's not for the championship.
That's Banfield who's getting the pass actually there on Valverde, who's been able to reel him back in. But still, Banfield needs to gain a lot more of those spots and fast. They are at least 3 seconds behind the next grouping of cars. Geisler is, by the way, up to second in the lead pack. And Bennett on the older tires, still needing to keep within touch. But Geisler on the outside, looking to try and get the diamond for the race lead, possibly down the backstretch. Martsoff goes middle, Geisler goes top, side by side behind him for third. Not a big enough run to take the lead yet.
Got a lap car of Trevor Bobrovsky in the mix as well. That second car, the black and red one on the bottom, who's really hampering Henry Bennett right now in his attempt to try to continue to go for the race win here today.
Keep in mind, Riley Thompson is coming in quick as well with all this to make it an even more interesting scrap. This is going to be intense. Still, cars hugging the bottom line as well. Believe that is now a lap car who's in the mix of all things. Yes, that is Trevor Bobrovsky. A massive snap from Martsoff. He's very loose. Big save from Martsoff. He's up the track. Colin Martsoff's car falls off as now it's Geisler in the race lead. And now he gets turned. Martsoff,
oh no!
Riley Thompson and company. Caution flag is out.
my word. That was kind of silly there. Travis Henderson up the middle, just didn't even slow down at all. And Riley Thompson was in the fence. Martsov was in the fence. That should not have happened.
We're at about 16 or 17 yellows, and look at this. 3 wide coming, and that was coming with 2 lanes of it real estate. Wow.
It's just upset the apple cart right now for them. It was going to be such a good race, such a good dash to the finish. And then this happens. If you're calling marks off, you know the feeling. Explicatives will be flying around as if it's a bunch of birds flying towards the southern hemisphere. And that time of the year, Martsov will be furious. Hell, he must be breaking tables or throwing bottles or something. Such a good result. Compromised by a single tap, and the same can be said for Thompson as well.
Who was coming in quick, and it was on that strategy which was seeing the fastest cars moving up. That was a big, big moment, though, that set that up with Martsov coming off the corner. You see, though, here, Thompson, he's just trying to make the move, and bam.
An innocent bystander there for Riley Thompson. There was absolutely nothing he could do. Even if he slammed the brakes, there was no way he was going to avoid that one. It was just about how much damage he was going to get from that mess, and any damage at this point in time would have been a race ender for him. That has got to be the most unfortunate thing that could have happened there for Riley Thompson. And I'll tell you what, that is definitely an angle you don't see all too often.
Keep in mind, even if he has the faster pair, that is a 4-minute tow we're hearing for Riley Thompson from his crew. Geisler stays out. Bennett stays out. Pinned a lap down still is Trevor Bobrovsky, who looked to get a wave and was coming in quick. But the drivers who pit, and this may be a strat that could win them the race if they can get through all the traffic. Puteklis, Henderson, Valverde, Romner, Show, Stormquist, Hagstrom. Among your drivers who ducked down, Banfield elected to stay out, however. He's in P10.
Want to note as well that Thomas Geisler, your race leader right now, has got front wing damage on his machine, and he stayed out.
I don't know if he realizes he has that. That's the thing. That's the 239 you're referring to, with Henry Bennett having a buffer car between them, with Bobrovsky pinned. How's that going to affect him now is the big question here, Samil, because as we've seen, damage can be critical here at this track.
There's going to be a lot of loss in downforce, that's for sure. Auto Club Speedway, definitely. You're turning almost all the time. It's a D kind of an oval, so you need that downforce, and the car can be frisky. It slides around a lot. You have to brake in certain cases here in corners. You need that downforce. You need the support with that damage. And these Indy cars are especially very, very aero reliant. They respond a lot. He's going to be struggling. He's going to be ailing.
10 to go this time. That means all lap cars from this point on will have to go to the back of the field. So take the waves out of the equation. Again, Banfield is currently ahead of Valverde, but Valverde is on fresher tires. Older tires for Banfield, who is in P10. Valverde's in 15th. Valverde is still in control of his own destiny for the championship, with 9 laps to decide it from California.
This could be very, very critical right now. At this point in time, all Yal Valverde needs to do is keep that car clean. If a single thing happens to that car to send him into a wall, it is all over for him. And just like that, this could sweep all into the favor of Ross Banfield. 9 laps, how much we're going to have here, assuming we don't have any more yellows. Even though it doesn't feel like a lot, all things considered, that's still plenty of time for something to happen.
To reset your top 10, these are all drivers who just stayed out. Geisler, Bennett, Baker, Drailing, Partridge, Wager, Andy Banfield, Niskanen, Robertson, Ross Banfield. Also stayed out Ryan Mayer. The first driver on fresh tires is Yudas Puteklis. Left side of the screen, your race leaders. Right side of the screen, on board with Ross Banfield. Pace car is off. 9 laps to go for the 2020 Major Series European Pro Split season. We're back on our way.
No fuel map difficulties this time for anybody in the order. Ross Banfield right now just hanging around in the 10th position. It's a big Hornet's nest though from about 5th on back to 9th position as Alexander Wigger going up the inside now of Ray Partridge down the back straightaway.
88-point lead for Valverde is the math at the moment, with Valverde currently where he scored in 15th and Banfield in 10th on that right side. Battle for the race lead side by side, also side by side in several different groupings in front of Banfield. Here is that lead now in the big picture on the left side. Geisler holding on still with the aero damage. What a job for Geisler as Bennett wants to try and get this win. He's been the dominant car all day.
Geisler trying to be the hero there, but doesn't have a lot of straight line speed. Probably hurting in the corners as well. Still trying to pull ahead though. Look at this. A valiant effort there from the 239 to try to pull ahead. Banfield so close to taking him out off of turn number 4.
7 to go from Auto Club Speedway. David H. Baker looking for the upset. Tom Dreiling, this is his best run all season in 4th still. Those are all your lead pack cars. Everybody else, 2 seconds on back. The first driver on fresh tires is stuck in 9th. Bennett, again, still can't get the pass yet.
You need the time to use the momentum. You need the time to build it all up to make that move in. Time is running out right now with only a few laps left to go. Here comes Bennett then. Around the outside.
Still can't get the run. Can he diamond it? Take a look at Banfield's view in all this, mind you. He has made his way towards the front of the second pack. That is that gaggle, 2.6 seconds behind your race leader. That's how hard they're fighting.
This could be crucial here.
They are 0.2 of a second slower. If anything happens in that pack, open up your popcorn. Approaching the point in over turn next time by. 5 laps to go.
Henry Bennett had the smallest of contacts last time through with Geisler off of 4. They managed to keep it straight though and no momentum lost, so we're still going green with 5 to go as Henry Bennett is trying to have a run against caution. It's out!
And Banfield is in it. Ross Banfield is in the crash.
That's it. That's the championship right there.
Ray Partridge also involved. And we're under yellow in what could be a 1 or 2 lap shootout to decide the season. Valverde also having to chug along for the bottom of the racetrack. A few others cars also involved. Let's take a look. Right there. Robbie Thompson involved. Some of the other kinetic cars having a dodge.
And that is going to be the championship right there. I don't think there's, unless some, there's no way that Banfield can claw back for that. As much as I hate to say it, I do believe that Valverde has just won the European Championship.
I think so too from that. But the race overall, oh my goodness. We're looking at a 1-lap shootout to decide the last race of the season. Because 3 to go this time. They'll get the signal for the 1 to go at 2 laps to go the next time around. It is something the drivers are discussing. How do you even plan this out now if you're Henry Bennett, if you're wanting this win? Because Thomas Geisler, he's been good off the launch. You need 1 send possibly here, Samil, to win this.
It's simple. You don't plan. You just go for it. It's all to play for here. The game, the stakes, everything are just so high. You just have to leave no stone unturned. But again, there is no time for any armistice between drivers right now. Everyone's on their own, and this, if you just go so aggressive, just a little bit too hard, things can just go away from you. It can slip away so quickly, and that's just going to hurt everyone.
Again, in IndyCar, via the rule package, no GWCs in IndyCar sanctioned competition. Same crosses over for the Major Series today. No green-white checker means a one-lap shootout to decide this race. Geisler, Bennett, Baker, Drailing, and Niskanen, your top 5. Some of them still looking for their first career major series victories, mind you, who are up here. And by the way, Valverde, at this moment, and right now, as long as Banfield sticks where he is, as long as Banfield can't gain 12 positions in a lap, is currently your champion. Just needs to take that one lap to be able to celebrate.
Wow. I mean, what a way for a season to end here. I mean, this has just been an absolutely thrilling season through and through from day one and all the way up to the last race. It has been just an absolute thriller, you know, through all the different disciplines, through all the different races we've had, you know, from the road course and the epic race we had at Daytona, over to Rockingham, from there to the Indy cars at Indianapolis, to Le Mans, then to Belgium, even to Williams Grove, and though this might be a bit more, you know, depending on what your taste is, the Silver Crowns of Lucille Raceway, this has been one heck of a season.
It's only fitting that the season comes down to this for the final race win. Banfield comes down for another pit stop at the one-to-go signal this time, but the fight is between, for the race win, Thomas Geisler, Henry Bennett, David H. Baker, Tom Drailing, Marcus Niskanen. All of them looking for their first wins of the season. For some of them, like David Baker, looking for their first top 5s of the season. For some of them, looking for their first career major series victories in European region sanctioned competition. This may be full send. This is going to come down to who gets on the gas well enough and gets a pull. Geisler, though, is in control of this pack here, Nolan, to decide this.
You can practically feel the time starting to slow. I mean, this is one of those times where you have to get yourself settled into the zone. You know, you have to block out all the distractions. If there was ever a Hollywood moment where, you know, you'll have the cliche, everything fans out, all you hear is the breathing and the heartbeats, this would be that moment.
Pace cars off. 2 miles to go in the California 500. Geisler off and away. A perfect launch. Final lap from Auto Club. Can Henry Bennett and David Baker get there? Crash to the back. Valverde's involved.
Oh, boy!
Valverde, believe, maybe still okay. But for the race win, Geisler trying to break the draft. Here comes Bennett. One shot to try and win it. David Baker with one good shot to try and win it. Geisler hunts the bottom. Bennett gets the
they
squeeze.
touch!
They touch.
Here comes!
Thomas Geisler wins the California 500 and the championship for the 2020 Major Series European Pro Split will go to Jan Valverde. He'll haul his car around to a 16th place run and secure the 2020 championship.
Riley Thompson flipped on the last lap as well. Got caught in the fencing on the front straightaway. Oh my God, what an end to a season.
Dear iRacing, if that's not in your top 3 for the top 10, what is?
And the fireworks go off after a firework-filled finish to the California 500. And what has been a banner year for the Major Series. The difference between P1 and P2, 0.016 seconds. It's Geisler with the win, holding off Henry Bennett on a one-lap shootout. And what a run for David Baker from 25th to 3rd. His first top 5 of the year comes in the finale as well. And burn it down because Jan Valverde will in the crash is your 2020 Pro Division champion for the European Majors.
The season ended in probably what could have been one of the most dramatic ways possible. I mean, that finish definitely sums up what the season's been. It's just been non-stop action, non-stop drama all the way through. And I am so, so glad that I could have been a part of this one for pretty much every single week.
Burnout City. Down on this front straightaway here at Auto Club. Let's take the time to look at your unofficial race results as the celebration calms down for the split second. For the drivers in the cockpits, they're likely losing their minds now after Thomas Geisler won today's race after a one-lap shootout despite a damaged front wing. He was able to hold on in the closing stages to take home the final checker flag of the 2020 season. Henry Bennett comes home in second today after leading 150 of 250 laps, while David Baker, his first top 5 of the year, is the highest running Grizzly TFR Pro driver in the battle for the team title. Tom Drayling, Marcus Niskanen in your top 5, Andy Banfield, Yudas Puteklis, Travis Henderson, Chuck Show, Alexander Wegert, your top 10. Marcus Romner comes home 11th with Hagstrom, Mayer, Banfield, Sarkvist, Valverde, your drivers on the lead lap, while Josh Wolf will finish 1 lap down with Robertson, Meitz, and Vavrovsky. Ray Partridge finishes 21st with Riley Thompson 22nd. Barney, 3 laps down. Rene Aurora, the last car running 24th, 6 laps down. Martz the DNF list starts with him with Brock, Snyder, Pataska, Mickey, Hearn, Crum, Gaunt, Brown, and Lane all not finishing. 34 drivers started this finale. In total, it's 24 who take the checker flag here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Let's take a look at what happened the last lap, because while it was carnage, Joel Valverde, he is still your Mario Andretti Drivers Champion. He still finishes only a couple spots behind Ross Banfield after this.
And there you can see the cars flipping and flying up the track as well. Again, one of them had gotten stuck in the fence. We're going to take a look a bit further back at the whole restart from the air, and you'll see this was just one of those classic restart crashes we've been seeing time and time again. Started with a big checkup further in the field. There you see the pace car pulling off as the field rushes behind to bunch up. And right there you see your race winner on the loud pedal, and right about, I'm going to say right about here. Yes, there it is. A hard hit that will send Yalvaberta into the outside wall, and 2 cars sliding and slamming and upside down.
And that car was still able to get going despite no back wing, front wing, or engine cover, and going turtling. He still chugged along as the last car in the lead lap secure the title. This is the look at what happened for the final lap, because this was well executed some hill for the launch, and then the run into turn 3 was crucial.
Boy, did it pay off for Bennett. Look at this. He just went away, ran away, but just couldn't do it for the long run then, because then what just happened was Bennett just getting the run of his life, using it through towards the end.
That's Geisler in the lead.
Exactly, that's Geisler in the lead. But the way it finished out, oh boy, look at this. When someone asks you how powerful is the draft in Indy cars, that is how powerful the draft is in Indy cars. And he just gets a god run on the outside. Just is able to manage. And look at this, how close they get, almost crashed through. And the margins.
Again, 0.016
Picture
seconds.
perfect.
3 wide to end off the season. For Geisler, a big victory for him and his group, to say the very least. Take a look at this once more. What a way to end off the campaign. But there can be only one Mario Andretti Drivers Champion. And while Valverde finished in 16th, he was one of the best drivers all year. And while Geisler gets to celebrate the win, the championship goes to Kinetic Racing for back-to-back seasons for one of their drivers in the European Pro Split competition. What a season, to say the very least, and what a fireworks-filled affair tonight here on RaceSpot TV, the iRacing Esports Network. Quick thoughts.
I honestly think that that the replay we said just speaks for itself as to what exactly I think of this finish. It was obviously thrilling all the way through and through, as was the whole of the season so far, as the fireworks fired off on the back straightaway. And I think it's a well-deserved victory for Jan Valverde. He's been working so hard throughout the season, and very valiant effort from Ross Banfield as well to try to make his run up there. I honestly can't wait for 2021.
Let's use some mail as well with this very, very intense day for what was a very intense championship fight. Believe we have Jan Valverde standing by, your championship winner. He is the driver who, in turn, with all the burnout celebrations, gets the chance to celebrate the Mario Andretti Drivers' Championship for this season. All set to go in just a few moments here after a big, big victory, to say the very least, for this race today. Valverde now standing by. You are the 2020 Mario Andretti Drivers' Champion, yo. What's going through your mind after this one?
Not gonna lie, relief, because it was way more eventful than it needed to be, but extremely happy and extremely proud. The boys did an amazing job this year. We got each other's back every single round, and yeah, it's not my title, it's theirs.
It was a crazy race to end off the season. Talk us through the race from your perspective, because you went back and forth with the field, and then the crazy final laps happened.
Yeah, the beginning of the race was pretty mellow, I would say. It's just focus on tires, focus on fuel, focus on aero, and get as many laps as possible. Then I saw Skytrack, and not gonna lie, cursed a bit. After that, it was just keeping calm. We did the math before the race started. We knew we had to be, if we were around Ross, we would get it, and that was the focus, just staying alive until the end.
Overall, you said some of the feelings about you and your team. It's back-to-back for Kinetic Racing, mind you, for a driver's championship, as in a driver representing an organization for the title. Overall, how big is this to be able to come away with this championship after what was a tight fight much of the year?
Yeah, it means a lot, especially knowing that we won Drivers' Championship in the 3 pro splits. So, yeah, words can't really describe it.
Perfect way to describe that as well. What's that excitement been like now from the team, knowing you get the full sweep this year as a group?
Yeah, I got a few messages on Discord now. People from other teams, former opponents, and the guys are super happy.
Anyone you want to thank for this championship?
Yeah, kind of a long list this time. Changing up a bit, I think the first thank you is for my better half. She was super supportive all season and had massive patience for me, so thank you, sweetie. Next, it has to be Mr. Quinn. He was spotting every single time. Huge support, huge teammate and friend, so thanks, dude. The guys at Kinetic and the boys at Team Talent as well. They massive support on the ovals. The boys at Kinetic, I cannot say enough. And last but not least, our sponsors, Majors Garage. They've been with us the last 3 or 4 rounds, I think. So thanks for the support as well, boys.
Congratulations on the championship, yo. What a run. What a season.
Thank you, boys. And great job you guys did all season. So thank you for that. Before I go, a massive shout out to Ross. It was big on him to be very, very cool, and wishing good luck and not pushing it too far. So thanks, buddy.
Congratulations, Jan Valverde, your winner of the Mario Andretti Drivers' Championship for the European Pro Splits for 2020 for the Major Series. The driver who came just short is standing by with Nolan Rempel. Ross Banfield, P2 championship finish.
Yeah, thanks guys. Can't complain too much with P2. I would like P1, but you know, with the way that race went, it was kind of like in the air at that point.
You certainly did put in a very, very valiant effort to see if you could get that position. There were times where you actually would have been the championship at some points throughout the race. Sadly, did not quite come to that one today, though. Still, 3.5 hours later, and along with 250 laps, 500 miles later, how are you feeling, and how do you think you did in that race?
I'm pretty tired, pretty worn out. But I feel like I did good. I mean, there were definitely some things I would have liked to change, like the fact that I forgot to, you know, turn off my field mapping for the yellow, and then everyone passed me. That was kind of like the heart-sinking moment. But other than that, I think I did a good job. I managed the tires and fuel well, so other than that and getting hit, there's not much I could have changed.
Overall, throughout the 2020 campaign, you showed time and time again why you deserve to be, you know, up there and fighting for the top spots here in the championship, and you came so close this season. Do you reckon for next season, if you intend on racing next season, that you can maybe go for the title?
Oh yeah, I'll definitely go for it again next year, so I can't wait for that. Hopefully it won't be down to the oval on the last one, because oval's my weak spot, so... Me and Valverde were actually DMing each other talking about how we hated that it came down to the oval, because it didn't feel like it was in your control.
And well, congratulations once again on getting the second place in the Drivers' Championship for this season. Before we let you go, anybody that you'd like to shout out today?
Yeah, just shout out to the UDocs guys. They're a huge help. I wouldn't have been able to get so close without them, especially with their setup advice on the oval side. And also shout out to you guys for, you know, it was great to watch the replays after the race. So you guys always do a great job with the commentating, so keep it up.
And thank you for taking the time to join us today. Congratulations once again on taking second place in the Drivers' Championship in your 2020 campaign. Best of luck next season.
Thanks.
Once again, that's Ross Banfield coming away second in the overall title fight. Real quickly here, want to turn to you, Samil, your thoughts on the championship fight throughout the season real quick.
It's been amazing. Banfield, Valverde, we had Mickey there for a couple of rounds in as well. Kurt Crum, Riley Thompson, everyone, the kind of show that they put up. And I seriously cannot believe that it had to come down to this one. Just amazing stuff. Only question in mind, when does season 2 begin? The next one.
Well, this series has been going on since the mid-2010s, rather, all the way back to its history in the Pacific Majors. A lot of history. Keep in mind, there's still the team title. That is still something up for discussion because, as mentioned, it was Bombshell Motorsports and Grizzly TFR fighting for the positions. We are still waiting for official confirmation. Believe you're standing by with the Bombshell representative, Eric Mickey, who finished up this season with a fairly solid run. Again, waiting for official confirmation on your team title holder at this moment, Samil, but he's standing by with you.
Eric, mate, that was, let's say, a wild race, to say the least. What was it like from your perspective? So many incidents, so many playthings everywhere. I think for a couple of moments, I think you were down a couple of laps too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I got myself into a mistake early on. That got myself 2 laps down and had to fight back from that. Didn't like having to race leaders that hard, but when you have a clean car that was clearly, I think at one point showed capable of competing with Bennett for the win, you just got to go as hard as you can because the only way to get back on the lead lap is get super lucky or race it. So stuck doing that for a while. Overall, the race was a really frustrating day, but I'm happy with the way it turned out. Based on my math, I believe we locked up the team title. I know that has to be confirmed, but based on all my math, I believe we got it.
And just how satisfying is that? Because this has been a long season, hasn't it? And we've been racing in so many different types of cars, categories, circuits. To just win the team's championship in this manner, it must be a big, big relief.
Oh, absolutely. We had a really big lead going into, I believe we had a 500-point lead, somewhere around there, going into the Indy 500 this season. So these open-wheel IndyCar, the oval IndyCar races have just killed us this year. When we left there, none of us had completed 75% of the race, so we essentially came out with 30 points, which is nothing compared to what you can get away with. So there was like a 1,000-point swing between us and Grizzly, and we had to claw our way back from about 500 or 600 point deficit from halfway through the season all the way to the end here. So I'm really proud of the fact that we were able to do that and come away. And as I said, as far as all of the math that I had checks out, we should have it by a decent margin. But yeah, super excited. The 2 out of 3 years now competing here, and we were able to take home the team championship. Looking forward to a third one next season if we can compete for that. And looking forward to the MTech Series 2 coming up in a couple weeks.
Eric, just how tricky is it from a team's perspective to compete in a championship like this one, and just how much effort and preparation does it go?
It is really difficult. We at Bombshell, we have one guy who really is the engineer. That's Kurt Crum. He does most of the setup work for us, and the rest of us can kind of find things here or there. We have our specialties in different cars. I was really able to help out on the stock car oval stuff this season. Ryan Mayer came in, and he was able to help us a lot with some of the short track stuff and open wheel road courses. But we're a very, very small team. We don't have, you look at guys like Kinetic, they've got teams all across the majors and all regions and everything. We've just got the 5 or 6 of us just trying to do what we can from race to race and see how well we do. And it's been good enough for the teams championship for the 2 of the last 3 seasons. So very proud of that we're able to take that kind of performance up against the teams that we're facing with how big they are.
Eric, very quickly, just before we let you go, is there anyone specific from the team, any sponsors, any friends, family members you'd like to give a shout out to?
I just want a big thanks for Kurt for doing what he does with building the sets for our team all season. Ryan for stepping up and being a huge part of this championship when he joined us. Everybody else, Isaac stepping in when we had to let Diego go. Just everybody on the team, Darwin, Marcus, everyone did what they had to do, performed when they had to perform to come home with this championship. Obviously, thank Mike and the rest of this competition committee for putting everything on and making everything run smoothly. You guys for the broadcast coverage, Sim TV for helping us make our cars look a little better with their logos on it. But yeah, it's just thankful for all of it right now.
If it's true and if your numbers are correct, congratulations, mate. What a season. Great job once again.
Thank you very much.
That, folks, was Eric Smicky from Bombshell Motorsport.
Pardon me there. Yes, indeed. Again, all unofficial for now, but the driver currently unofficially representing the second place organization. Again, unofficial to clarify again. For Grizzly TFR Pro, Trevor Bobrovsky. Trevor, first things first, how do you feel your race went today?
Personally, I'm a little disappointed in how it ended up going. Just feel like I got really close there at the end. Just had the caution come out a lap too soon to get back on the lead lap. But it really wasn't about me today. It was about trying to get the team championship. We knew we had a big gap going in, but seems like we came up just shy.
Yes, discussed a little bit by the Bombshell Motorsports' driver Eric Mickey a little bit on that. Talk us through kind of the season, because it was an interesting partnership, because last year, of course, Grizzly Motorsports and Torque Freak Racing, 2 separate entities out in the major series, competed hard for a lot of the points last year. Then you merged your efforts together for this year. What was that like, having essentially 2 teams working together as one collective unit to try and win a title?
Unfortunately, it wasn't quite as much of a merging as we had hoped for. If I'm being honest, we'd kind of hoped to convince some more people to come over and run. At the start of the year, I think we had David Barraclough was on the team, and he helped us out for those first few weeks. But they have so many other commitments over there that it was really tough for them to do a lot. So this was a lot of the it's more of a we were going over there to try and run with them than they were coming over here. Hopefully next year it'll be a bit bigger, but it was still the same 5 or 6, 7 guys that we've had these last couple years trying to win this Constructors Championship, and we seemed to finish second or third, and it was really close. Like Mickey was saying, you know, we're not a ton of people. We're not Kinetic or Unorthodox that have, you know, 20 plus drivers on their teams. You know, we're just 6, 7 guys just trying to slay the giants out there.
I mean, there are some teams that have 60, so there's that. By the way, official confirmation just received. P2 run for your team. Bombshell is officially your team champions for 2020 for the European Pro Split for the Major Series. Overall, though, you mentioned some of that effort. How would you describe the feelings about, especially after everything coming up just a little bit short at the end of the day, at this, especially with the craziness that was tonight?
I mean, it's hard to not say that it's a disappointment. I think we were just as good as them through a lot of the season, and we just couldn't finish some of our races. I mean, this race they left the door open and we couldn't close. We knew we needed a big race, but I mean, if I'm on the lead lap at the end of that race, or Josh was on the lead lap at the end of that race, we really think that we could have pushed up towards that top 5. And that would have really, I think, potentially held a different picture, but we shot ourselves in the foot so many other times, and they came on so strong in the second half of the field. I heard Eric mention it. Once they got Ryan in, and that was a real big blow to us, because he brought a whole nother level to them and started really pushing for wins for those guys, and we just couldn't quite keep pace with their surge in the second half of the year.
Real quickly, anyone you want to thank for your team's performance? Any shout-outs, family members, sponsors?
Oh, for sure. I mean, everyone on the team, we've been running here in the majors. I think this is our 4th or 5th year for some of us, and we're trying to get better and better, but so is everyone else. Huge shout-out for Josh, the team owner. He's just keeping us all together, keeping us focused, keeping us locked in. He put so much work into the cars and putting the team together. And then, you know, David, he came in, he almost won this race. He was the one that came in late, I think, on Saturday with a setup for us that I think really helped push us towards the front of the field. Everyone else on the team, Cordell Cologne, he's been struggling this year. I know he's had a really rough year, but he helps us so much on our setups and has helped us out. Not so much on the track as much as he'd like, but he helps everyone else finish better. So huge shout out to him. And then the guys over at Torque Freak for when they did help us out, and Torque Freak Labs, they should be on the car for next year. I think we might have had them on the car these last few races, and I think Sim Labs, they were on board the car for some of these races. So shout outs to all those guys.
Congratulations on the strong run for your organization throughout the year. Congrats to P2 in the team title run.
Thank you.
Trevor Bobrovsky, representing Grizzly TFR Pro and their championship efforts for the team title. Now, heard some of the thoughts for the team fight. Nolan, your thoughts on the team fight this year? Those two organizations were the most consistent all year.
Well, like you said, I mean, Grizzly, the Grizzly Motorsport guys, they are the guys they only got like 6 or 7 people on their team, and, they're trying to, run out there. They're trying to take down the big teams a few notches, like the Bombshell Motorsports guys. And they came really, really close to doing it this season. And I think that's proven that you don't need, a massive, massive team backing you in order to go for the championships. All you need is a few very talented guys, and they proved this season why they deserve to be on the top.
It was a great season overall, and Smil, you're a part of much of the action throughout the campaign. Your feelings overall now to recap what was an exciting season?
I think it's been total pandemonium all the way around. I mean, sometimes for us commentators it's been a bit tricky too, because we've been shifting around from so many different cars, tracks, circuits, same as the drivers, and that's the one thing I absolutely love about the Major Series from the very get-go. It's not just one car, it's not just a couple of circuits. It's everything. It's a challenge full of everything. You go to new places, you learn, you try new things, and the end result, it's just a dramatic package. That's what we love it for.
It was an exciting end to an exciting season, and we'd like to thank everyone for tuning in throughout the 2020 campaign of the Major Series and RaceBot's coverage on the iRacing Esports Network, the European region, and its Pro Splits. I'd like to thank all the drivers who have supported the action, as well as the series, as well as the teams, as well as you, the fans, for your support, as well as their support of this organization. Been around since the mid-2010s, and overall, it's been a banner campaign. Congratulations once again to Jan Valverde, your 2020 Mario Andretti Drivers Champion, and your team title winners, Bombshell Motorsports. It's time to say goodbye, though. In what has been an emotional season, it's time to wave to the sunset. For Samuel Aurora, for Nolan Rempel, for Director Hugo Weiss, for Estima Burlow, for the cameras, I'm Justin Prince. So long. Enjoy the winter. We will see you in 2021.